East diplomacy. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Biden's on his first trip to the Middle East in office. He's on Air Force One, about to arrive in Israel first.
He plans to establish a working path toward greater cooperation. The so-called Jerusalem Declaration will also take a strong stance on working against the Iran nuclear threat. The president will also go to the West Bank to meet with Palestinian leadership. From there, he moves on to Saudi Arabia, a summit of Arab leaders, and a face-to-face meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The president criticized Saudi leadership after journalist Jamal Khashoggi's death in 2018. Saudi oil is a key component of talks there.
Fox's Colonel Scott. The House committee investigating last year's Capitol riots, drawing a line between a late-night tweet and the violence on January 6th.
Stephen Ayers says he traveled to Washington on January 6th because then President Trump told supporters to come.
He basically put out, come to Stop the Steal rally, and I felt like I needed to be down here.
His testimony was part of a select committee hearing tying a December 19th tweet by former President Trump inviting supporters to a wild rally to violence planned on internet message boards.
Fox's Jared Halpern on Capitol Hill. The Labor Department's monthly inflation report comes out this morning with a survey of economists predicting an 8.8% annual increase.
That would topple last month's 8.6%, the highest we've seen in 40 years. But White House economic advisors are saying that the numbers for June are already out of date since the index won't show the recent fall in gas prices. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
Leaked surveillance video from the elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, shows police retreating and standing around for more than an hour before officers entered a classroom and killed the gunman. There were 911 calls from kids inside during that delay. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, a lot of you know that I learned how to use a firearm when I was 11 years old. I've been practicing my entire life, and people ask me all the time, Hannity, what kind of gun should I get? Well, now I'm telling them, go to Henry Repeating Arms. And I always tell them to start just by going to their website, henryusa.com. You're going to get a free catalog. Now, Henry has over 200 models of rifles and shotguns to choose from. They're made with the finest craftsmanship I've ever seen, and you don't beat their performance. Every one I had was accurate right out of the box and reliable ever since. Their company motto is made in America or not made at all. They have a lifetime warranty, family-owned business, and these folks are true patriots who give back to our military, our vets, our first responders, sick kids, you name it. They support gun safety, and they support our Second Amendment. So if you're in the market for a high-quality American-made firearm, just go to henryusa.com. You get their free catalog, list of dealers, and free decals. henryusa.com. You'll love this company.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 6:03 and Robinson saves you time. 66 degrees. We have clear skies here in mid-Missouri. Beautiful sunrise this morning as I peek out the window. Sunrise 5:54. Day's getting a little bit shorter right now. It will set at 8:36 tonight. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here are some of the stories we're working on for you in the 6 o'clock hour. CPS, Columbia Public Schools, releasing drawings of what the new $25 million elementary school plan for South Columbia will look like. The school will be built next to John Warner Middle School. It's set to open for the 2024-2025 school year. The drawings show modern, secure buildings with new sidewalks, trees, green space as well. That project included in an $80 million bond issue approved by CPS patrons in April. Also part of that same bond issue, the aging Columbia Area Career Center will see major improvements, a $15 million addition and renovation approved by the same voters in the April bond issue. The district's drawings show the renovated facility will have large CACC letters on the front wall. They'll also have a secure entryway and new sidewalks. New crosswalks as well. A former U.S. attorney who is running for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat is an independent, must obtain 10,000 signatures by next month to appear on your November ballot. He's confident it'll happen. 52-year-old John Wood spoke to our listeners on Wake Up Columbia.
I just announced about a week and a half ago that I was running. It took a little time to help train up both volunteers and staff who are going to help collect these signatures. But now that they've gotten started, they're making great progress. I think we're around 5 5,000.
Mr. Wood describes himself as a lifelong Republican and a Ronald Reagan, Jack Danforth conservative Republican. You can listen to the full interview with Mr. Wood on our website. That website is 939theeagle.com. Criminal charges have been filed against 2 Jefferson City women after a weekend attack. It involved a hammer.
Cole County's prosecutor has charged 18-year-old Janiah Rucker and 34-year-old Tawana Gillis with assault, armed criminal action, and endangering the welfare of a child. Police say they were called out Saturday morning to Wall Street for a fight involving several women. Officers talked to a victim at the scene who was covered in blood and bleeding from the mouth because one of her teeth had been knocked out with a hammer. Victim said she and her son had both been attacked. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
A Cole County teen who scored a perfect 36 on her ACT plans to attend Mizzou and hopes to pursue a career in medicine. Keep in mind, she is just 14 years old. Her name is Ava Fleury. She lives in Wardsville. She should be starting her freshman year in high school, but instead she'll be graduating from the Mizzou Academy Online High School in May.
I hope to attend the University of Missouri and major in some kind of science, probably biochemistry or biomedical engineering. I also want to minor in music because I've been playing the piano for 7 years.
Ava's also earned superior marks for her solos during the National Federation of Music Club competitions each year. She'll take a full load of college classes this fall through dual enrollment. She's been homeschooled by her mother, Ann. The family lives in Wardsville. In state transportation crews hope to reopen the overpass over I-70 in mid-Missouri's Montgomery County and Hyde Hill by this evening. MoDOT has one lane of eastbound I-70 closed until 11 o'clock this morning. Westbound is not closed, folks, but you can still expect delays because of all the activity there. Again, that's eastbound I-70, one lane closed, mile marker 180 in High Hill. If you live in Columbia or heading to St. Louis, give yourself extra time this morning, at least through 11 o'clock. News is brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:07. In sports, Albert Pujols and Nolan Gorman hitting home runs for St. Louis. The Cardinals beat the first-place Dodgers last night at Busch Stadium, 7-6 the final score. The Cardinals had 13 hits. They also committed 2 errors in the game. Los Angeles had home runs from their shortstop, Trey Turner, and also big Freddie Freeman. Boy, does he knows how to hit. They've got a good team. Cardinals went up 3-0, but the Dodgers came back and forth, 7-6. Cardinals win that game. That's a huge win for St. Louis. Game 2 in the series is tonight at Busch Stadium. First pitch, 6:45, right here on 93.9. The Eagle and Detroit beat Kansas City last night, 7-5 at the K at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. Sports is brought to you this hour by Betts Jewelers. They're in downtown Columbia. Betts for gifts that last a lifetime. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:08. John, thank you. And our weather is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. For all your cooling needs, airserve.com. Clear skies, 66. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies looking for local people at 609 midmohires.com. Again, a quick reminder for those of you on I-70, Montgomery County, mile marker 180, High Hill, MoDOT, one lane of eastbound I-70. They just closed that about 9 minutes ago. It'll be closed through 11 o'clock this morning. If they get everything done, that overpass should open tonight. But we won't know that until well into the afternoon, unless things change. If they do, we'll keep you posted on that. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, Andrea. One of the wildest things that I've ever seen.
Shocking and even terrifying testimony today.
After that explosive testimony, the chairman brings down the gavel. Katie, I have witnessed so many hearings going all the way back, Iran-Contra. I have never seen anything like this.
I think that's reaction to the exchange between our senator, Josh Hawley, and that Berkeley professor, or I don't know if that's a reaction from CNN and MSNBC to the J6 hearings. It could apply to either one. So let's start with January 6th. Josh, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but Josh Hawley, by the way, you typically more often than not, there are people in life you don't want to debate. Ben Shapiro, who's here weeknights, 7 o'clock on 93.9 The Eagle. You don't want to get into a debate with Ben Shapiro.
Gary Nolan.
Gary Nolan is number 2 on the list. By the way, I would love to see Gary and Ben debate. I would pay $1 to see that. I think that'd be
a whole $1.
Awesome. Gary's here at 9. And you don't want to debate probably one of the toughest, most well-spoken attorneys in America. Josh Hawley argued cases before the Supreme Court. Obviously, now in the Senate, he's backed Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler for Senate. I'm just thinking you don't want to get into a battle of wits with Josh Hawley.
You really don't.
You don't. We'll get into that, but first let's start with January 6th stuff. Here's my big takeaway. I'm thinking about this yesterday as I'm watching my phone, because you get all these breaking news alerts, and I get them from, whether it's from Breitbart to Huffington Post to USA Today to Fox, CNN, all these, Washington Post, New York Times. My big takeaway is there must have been nothing that was really juicy said because I didn't get a bunch of breaking news updates. So-and-so said this. So-and-so said this. I'll go back to we've seen nothing different. Trump was angry and all these crazy people who, by the way, some of these folks, they're hanging their hat on this one guy. I felt angry. I felt motivated by Trump. So they're all saying the same thing. Again, the Democrat progressive mindset, not responsible for my own actions. Somebody else made me feel angry, and so I reacted. There's just nothing different that I have seen. I've got some preconceived notions. Maybe you've got something different. Andrew McCarthy, senior fellow at the National Review Institute. He's on Fox, and I think it kind of echoes, I think, for the most part, what we have been saying here.
It's the link that I expect them to act like they've made because there's no cross-examination. The committee, as we heard yet again today, and I think very powerfully, noted that there were 61 legal challenges by the Trump administration or by President Trump's campaign during the course of the Stop the Steal campaign challenging the election results, and they lost 60 times, and they thought that was a big deal, and I agree with them it was a big deal to lose in court that many times. What I would point out, though, is the Justice Department has indicted 800 people, and defendant after defendant after defendant has gone into district court and tried to shift the blame from himself to President Trump.
And there was a couple of them did it yesterday. One guy gets up there and he's been in trouble. So what are you doing? And when you're in trouble, again, the mindset of these people, you're 4 years old. When Brian and his sister, Brian Hauswirth and his little sister would fight, they would blame it on each other. You didn't take it was Brian's fault. No, it was her fault. And that's what they're doing. No, it was Trump's fault. I wasn't responsible for my actions. And Mr. McCarthy is absolutely right. So then they get up on stand. There's no cross-examination. I mean, there's just really nothing new there that I saw.
Apparently, they're really fired up about there's Trump. The words he used was "be there, will be wild." How many times in your 20s did you get you didn't get a text, but hey, hey,
age joke at 6:14 in the morning. I love it.
But hey, come to this party, be there. It's going to be wild, man, because you're just trying to get a lot of people. If you want, don't miss out. And if you would have texted Branden that, or if I texted that tomorrow, come to my Ashland parade. It's going to be wild. It's going to be such a great time. You know what he's going to do? He's going to go home and go to sleep because he can read that and independently decide for himself how he's going to operate the rest of the day.
Some other big revelations. Trump had some heated exchanges in the Oval Office with some of his staff. All right.
I heard one clip, people were concerned about the speech he actually gave and what words he used and what was in the script versus what he actually said. And I'm thinking, is it a surprise that Trump was off script? Was the guy ever on script? I just imagine the poor speechwriters his entire presidency when he, I went to CPAC and saw him speak for like 2.5 hours, basically just off the cuff. And I'm sure they're like, my entire job was wasted. I spent all day yesterday writing this speech. He never says the words that I give to him. And now we're suddenly surprised that he didn't stick to the script. I don't think so.
So there is nothing new coming out of this stuff. Trump had angry exchanges in his office. You've got people that have been convicted for their part in some of the violence that took part on January the 6th. Yet CNN's reaction.
That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, Andrea.
Some of the wildest things I've ever seen. By the way, I want to go back here real quick before we get into this. Josh Hawley, our very talented, very smart U.S. Senator yesterday in this exchange with a Berkeley professor. So that's from the January 6 hearings yesterday. This was from the January 6 hearing, some audio we used a couple of weeks ago.
Because it's a very compelling hearing, and it's compelling, it's must-see TV. I've been texting.
And then a couple of weeks before that,
of testimony from the witnesses, of course, what the committee was able to offer in terms of new materials that we had never seen before.
This is so much worse than something like Watergate.
So the reaction every time, because that stuff is 3, 4, and 5 weeks old. There is nothing new. They know the script. The speechwriters for CNN and MSNBC, they're writing the stories before we hear the testimony, and it is the same week after week after week. This whole thing, which is put together by a television producer.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, the people who stormed the Capitol and who were violent are horrible people. I mean, we had members of Congress having to hunker down in fear of their safety. But so are the people who are now currently, for instance, harassing and threatening our justices, causing our justices to hunker down in fear for their safety in their own homes. I mean, these people are insane, and both are bad.
So I think MSNBC and CNN, some of their opening stuff yesterday could apply. So it was for January 6th, but this stuff could just as easily apply to this exchange between Josh Hawley and this Berkeley professor yesterday over the definition of a woman.
One of the wildest things that I've ever seen.
Shocking and even terrifying testimony.
I would say that applies to. Have you all seen this exchange between Hawley and the Berkeley professor?
Yes.
So I saw it yesterday, hanging out with Brian Hauswirth. Actually, Stephanie and I were both back here. We were on the Randy Tobler Show, as hosted by Fred Perry yesterday. Hannah, the producer, was on the Gary Nolan Show. I think somebody sent us a very interesting text yesterday.
Yeah, so Kyle texted us. He said, "What gives? Everybody's pulling double duty today."
We're just all good friends. We all we're in and out of each other's studios and like to hang out. And so we were just having some fun. But anyhow, so we're hanging out here yesterday, and I start seeing these breaking news alerts from Huffington Post, the left-leaning stuff. Hawley eviscerated over transphobic comments on, and I'm like, oh my God. What did Josh, is it January 6th? Did he go out and raise his fist again? What did Josh do? Our good senator from here in Missouri. What he did is he used facts and science to ask some very simple questions of a professor who came to a hearing as it relates to abortion in women's hearings yesterday. Now, I get it. I'm biased. I am. But I listened to this, and I think I'm being pretty honest. Number one, the headlines are wrong from the leftist news organizations. Hawley did not get eviscerated. What he did is he politely showed the stupidity of this woman and the stupidity of the mindset that, well, you can get pregnant even if you're a dude. No, you're a chick. You think you're a dude. You can call yourself a dude. You can't get pregnant if you're a dude.
Before I want to visit with you, Ms. Maskey, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So most of that, if not that Stephanie or Hannah would ever do it, but you could say you're a man and get pregnant.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is you are not a man. This is a professor. it's
Well, and one of the things, I was kind of offended by this first part of the thing because she said, and she gets offended because of Holly's comments, which we'll get to, but she basically says, well, some cis women have the capacity for pregnancy and some don't. So essentially she's drawing the line and drawing two categories. And is she drawing the line between women who are, and is that a reference to people who have fertility problems? Because that is horrifying. I mean, that is a sensitive topic. And those people do not need to be, segregated from people who have a capacity for pregnancy versus don't. It's a personal issue, and that part really made me mad yesterday.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic.
And that's where the lefties get the headline. Josh Hawley and his transphobic. It's not transphobic. Trying to discern. He started off, you heard him, and I give him much respect on a personal level. He's seeking first to understand. And he used the word understand. Let me understand what and he used the word understand. I have much personal respect for people who say, well, I know what I think, but let me understand what you're thinking. He said that, and it's transphobic to ask. I mean, it's just bonkers.
In the Washington Post, and this is kind of a sidebar story, the Washington Post wrote about this and identified him on the front page as Senator Josh Hawley, Democrat, Missouri.
Wait, not the Washington Post, Senator, the beacon of freedom.
And take a look at Josh Hawley's tweet overnight. He links to it about him being called a Democrat from Missouri. His response, quote from Senator Hawley on Twitter, the ultimate insult, end of quote. so he's firing back. Now, people that don't like Hawley on Twitter are saying, yeah, they did get it wrong. You don't live in Missouri. They're saying he lives in Virginia. So again, it's just
it's not talk. It's playground BS.
But yeah, he's taking shots at the Post for calling him a Democrat.
Brian Hauswirth, our news director for the Zimmer Radio Network. Stephanie Bell with the sweet age insult already this morning over here. There's Anna, the producer. My name is Branden Rathert. Coming up 5 minutes from now, Daily DC Rundown. What's underneath the circus tent this morning, Steph?
Someone in the White House apologizing?
Uh-oh.
An eye on the nation, an eagle eye on mid-Missouri. Wake up Columbia with Branden Rathert. 93.9, The Eagle.
And as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
All right, Jill Biden taking flack for those comments. By the way, I know some folks got a little confused when I backed her yesterday. They're like, you can't back. She didn't say anything wrong, and I'll go back Greg Gutfield, and we'll play his audio later. We had the same take. She shouldn't apologize for that. But she did. Stephanie Bell has that story in today's daily D.C. rundown here on 93.9 The Eagle.
So although you weren't triggered by that, enough people were that she has officially issued an apology for comparing for her remarks. It's not the first time the Bidens have made like racial gaffes in the past, but she has officially issued an apology, which is pretty rare. You know, Biden won't take the blame for anything. So good on her for, at least saying sorry. Biden yesterday was meeting with the president of Mexico. He agreed to give us some money or spend some money, $1.5 billion on smart border technology.
That's a big enchilada.
Branden.
This big enchilada money is big.
Well, it's something, right? And so the meeting, apparently there was some progress. And, we need some help at the border, and at least the two of them are talking about it, which is more than we can, now we need to see some action. We've been waiting for that for a while. Biden is headed over to the Middle East. He is, one of his key priorities when he entered office was reviving the Iran nuclear deal. Those talks have significantly stalled. So he's over there talking to Israeli and Saudi Arabian officials.
Fingers crossed.
Right.
Stephanie, whenever Joe gets on the worldwide stage,
repeat the line.
Oh, and repeat. Say again. He's Ron Burgundy from gosh.
He really is. So, all eyes are kind of on that. It's a really, sensitive area, sensitive topics, and he is our leader trying to make some progress over there. Also, the federal government is warning us about COVID again.
Coming up, folks upset about Fulton solar farms and Missouri Dems calling for a special session. We have those stories 5 minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle.
Weather checks brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all your cooling needs, log on to AIRESERV.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. President Biden heading to Israel for technology and other high-level talks.
He will be greeted by Prime Minister Yair Lapid. Despite the political turmoil unfolding right now in this country, the Jewish state is preparing to focus the visit on a variety of strategic interests. Biden will be shown an array of missile defense systems built by Israel that shoot down rockets from places like Lebanon and Gaza.
Fox's Trey Yingst. The latest reading on inflation is due out shortly.
The Labor Department's Consumer Price Index is forecast by some economists to show prices surged 8.8% in June from the previous year. That would topple last month's 8.6%, which was already the highest we've seen in 40 years. The index won't show the recent fall in gas prices.
Fox's Jill Nato. Dow futures up in the pre-market. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 6:31. Robinson saves you time. 67 degrees. We do have partly clear skies right now in Columbia. Going to be a little bit warmer today. Sunny, a high of 91. Clear tonight with a low near 68 degrees. Today is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. Good morning, everyone. The new elementary school that'll be built next to South Columbia's John Warner Middle School set to open for the 2024-2025 school year. The $25 million project, a key component of the $80 million bond issue approved by CPS voters in April. CPS's Michelle Baumstark tells the Eagle the district still has to do the design phase sell bonds as well. Cole County prosecutors charging 2 Jefferson City women with assault following a brutal attack in the capital city involving a hammer. Suspects are 18 and 34 years old. My colleague John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagles, John Marsh, reporting the female victim was covered in blood, bleeding from the mouth. She'd been hit in the face with a hammer. She's missing teeth as well after being beaten by that hammer. A 14-year-old student from mid-Missouri's Wardsville, who scored a perfect 36 on her ACT, is crediting the hard work she put into practice tests for helping her score. Ava Fleury, who's just 14 years old, will graduate from Mizzou Academy Online High School in May.
I took so many practice tests. I cannot even tell you how many hours I put into the practice tests. But even though they're not required and no one's making me do them and I don't even get a grade for doing them, it really does pay off to learn the content that's going to be on the test.
Ava has a 4.0 GPA. She plans to attend medical school after graduating from college. And no arrests in the Columbia shooting. Doris Drive yesterday, a woman shot. News brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. In sports, Albert Pujols and Nolan Gorman hitting home runs for St. Louis. They beat the Cardinals beat the Los Angeles Dodgers last night in a thriller at Busch Stadium. 7-6 was the final score. That game started 3-0 the Cardinals, but of course the Dodgers have a lot of offense. They came back. They had home runs from Freddie Freeman. He's pretty good. Trey Turner's pretty good. Mookie Betts, goodness, can he hit? And sometimes they'll use him in that leadoff spot. He's got 20 home runs. He didn't homer last night. Got a lot of firepower, but the Cardinals actually out-hit the Dodgers. 13 hits compared to 10 for the Dodgers. Cardinals had 2 errors. They were costly in the game. St. Louis holds on, though, to win 7-6. Game 2 of the series tonight at Busch Stadium. First pitch, 6:45. You'll catch it right here on 93.9 The Eagle, your home for Cardinal baseball in mid-Missouri. Detroit beat Kansas City last night 7-5 at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. Our sports is brought to you by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:34. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Mile marker 180 in Montgomery County. That is High Hill, just on the edge of the 93.9 The Eagle listening area. I've been in the car. You can actually get the Eagle in your car in High Hill, certainly at this time of the day, but it's right on the edge. But many of you head that way. They've got one lane right now, eastbound, shut down. So if you're heading that way this morning, one lane shut down 311. If everything goes as planned, they hope to have the overpass open by tonight. If they don't, they'll have to be back out there tomorrow. We won't know that, though, until later today. And we have an updated story and a new photo. You're going to really want to see this photo about how much work they've done. 93.9 The Eagle. Take a look at that on our website. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
Because the heat it produces, up to 900 degrees, is charring the feathers of birds flying through, often causing them to crash and die. Workers on site call them streamers because of the smoke plume created when the birds ignite in midair.
Is that wrong to laugh?
That is wrong to laugh.
Sorry, from the woman who hates birds over here, Stephanie Bell.
I don't hate them. Well, I do hate
You fear
birds.
them? They weird you out? Yeah. So that was report from a couple of years ago. And I don't know if it's just solar farms or those specialized solar farms where they all point to a thing in the tower. But is what the report was about. These people there were reports of, hey, all of a sudden these birds are flying and just in midair. Like David Copperfield magic tricks. These birds were evaporating in thin air, and from a distance, people didn't know what was going on. Well, apparently it was solar farms that direct all the heat. They point to a certain spot, and the birds fly.
Wow. That's the first I've heard of that. I do know the only thing I would compare that to that's just kind of unusual when I worked, and I know some of our listeners that work at the prison system, especially the JCCC that has, where a lot of the murderers are housed. That's maximum security. They have an electric fence, as you probably know, Stephanie, around that prison. There's actually 2 fences. I think it'd be almost impossible for any inmate to get over the first one, but if they would, there is an electric fence. The legislature approved that in 1995. And when I was spokesman at DOC, occasionally we would get calls from, basically birds, people that are into birding, basically. And they were asking about it. And what would happen if birds would get into that electric fence, they'd die. They would be electrocuted.
It's not funny. Actually, the Department of Conservation has raised concerns before about wind farms because they are hazardous to like birds, eagles, for instance, and bats. And Missouri having all of the caves. Apparently, we're like the bat capital of the world. Some of these species are actually protected or endangered. But then also you have to think about, how much money do we invest in conservation? It's a lot. And so we're investing a lot of money in, for instance, like the eagle population, ensuring that, we conserve on certain wildlife and other things. And then, with bats in particular, the way that they handle pests and insects affects our agriculture. And so, it's a little bit too cute, right? When you're saying, oh, birds just evaporate, but there's serious concerns. And if you're a taxpayer and you're thinking, we've paid all this money to try to preserve these certain species from the federal level and the state level, and then someone throws up, a solar farm or a wind farm, and, we have these issues. So it's a balance, right? And there are things you can do. And I think that's what we know. As people learn about renewables, they know there are things you can do from a solar perspective or a wind perspective that you can get both, right? That you can help preserve species and worry about spots where they're really prevalent, and there are better places and worse places, and there's little fixes that you can do about migration and stuff that you have to balance the interests. And I think we're doing a better job of that now and learning more about the technology to help preserve our species, even though I'm not a fan of big birds. I mean, no one wants to see.
I don't want to see Big Bird flying through the sky and poof. Well, now it's a thing, and you may have noticed this. You drive out I-70, man, there's several new solar farms. There's that massive one, and I don't know if...
Callaway County. Callaway County for sure.
As a matter of fact, there was a meeting earlier this week, Callaway County. There's a farmer. His name is Mike Graves. He's with Graves Farm LLC, and apparently him and his family, his company, they've leased 400 acres of land to range power, and they're putting in solar farms. Folks showing up, and they're not pleased about it. But there's one, and I think it's the Ameren one. So if you're headed towards St. Louis, it's on the north side of I-70. It's pretty massive, but it seems like there's a newer one once you get right outside of Columbia.
Yeah, and then Ameren is interested in it, and we may be referring to the same thing, but I do know they plan to do more in Audrain. That's just off the highway, just to the north. They're also in Rawls County, and I know sometimes you go up to the Ellsbury area. Rawls County, technically some say mid-Missouri. I really consider Rawls northeast Missouri, but these solar farms, these alternative energy farms, they obviously are. There's more of them coming than what we've seen, for sure.
So, according to reporting from the Missourian, said about 100 folks showed up, met with some Callaway County commissioners. They either want to stop or limit the farms. Some homeowners saying they're worried about their proximity. They're worried about the proximity of solar farms to the homes, churches, and schools. They're worried that they could pose health risks and then diminish the value of their property. They quoted one farmer from Fulton who said he was worried that solar farms would take farmland away from the area. This is Mike Graves talking to KOMU Channel 8. Now, he's the guy who's leasing this land to these companies.
I just don't want to see the community split in two. I've heard stories of, families are on both sides of the issue. Neighbors are certainly on both sides of the issue. But there is two sides to this story.
And which is, by the way, key in just about everything, whether it's office gossip or whatever. Well, so-and-so hates so-and-so. Really? Well, what did the other person say? I don't know. I didn't talk to him. But what did he say? I value what he is saying, not just from something we can all relate to at work, but on a bigger issue in Callaway County.
Well, and this is kind of a NIMBY issue, like not in my backyard type of issue. And so what we forget is in 2008, Missourians passed basically a clean energy proposition that put in place a renewable energy standard for Missouri. And so for Missouri investor-owned utilities, they have to meet a certain percentage of how much electricity or power they're generating with renewables. They have to get to that. And what it did was it phased it in. So every couple of years there was a different percentage. And now I think we're at the high point. But they are, they're highly regulated, and it was something that the people voted for that now they have to meet. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of this, especially around Missouri, seeing the interest in renewables.
And I think the other thing it highlights, Stephanie's absolutely right about what happened in 8, Branden, but it highlights anytime you have any type of land use issue like this, whether it's, and I'm not comparing it, but there's similarities.
Grain belt,
hog farms. Grain belt's a perfect example, but hog farms. But what he's saying there sounds correct. But basically, families will get divided. It'll divide towns because they're worried about farmland. But it also highlights that they're going into an area in Callaway County that must not have zoning. Because obviously if they're proposing it there, it's really probably ultimately going to be up to the county commissions in some of these counties. But these land use issues tend to be very divisive, so I'm not surprised by that.
And a smaller community, Callaway County, 40,000 people, maybe in the entire county of Callaway County. So it is. Yeah. It's a smaller community. Now we go a couple hundred miles to the west of Callaway County, Kansas City. By the way, one more comparison, because I love the comparison, what you brought up, Stephanie, about, okay, so we spend all this money. Our taxpayer dollars go to conserve certain bats and bird species, and then what do we do? And I saw some of these going up to Nebraska or Omaha, Nebraska this weekend, wind farms in northwest Missouri. We spend all this taxpayer money. We take money out of Hannah, the producer's wallet, and your wallet. We're going to preserve the birds and preserve the bats. And then we're also going to take money from your wallet, your tax dollars, and then we're going to put up windmills. And those windmills are going to kill the very animals that your tax dollars are paying to protect. It's like somebody says, well, let's preserve the butterflies in Columbia along Scott Boulevard. So let's let the stuff grow. Let's let the weeds grow. We'll call it native plants. We're saying it's butterfly restoration. Well, guess what? You put it by one of what is becoming one of the busiest roads in Columbia. And guess what happens to all those butterflies? Splat.
Or you could put it in a different area and you can save the butterflies. I mean, that was my point, is there are ways to balance that can effectuate both. But yeah, very good comparison.
Kansas City now, apparently they're, these folks still upset about what's happening with the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled. Majority of Supreme Court justices says they're not saying abortions are illegal. They're saying this is basically up to the states to decide. And now people, they want to get, and we saw, I don't know, maybe I'm comparing, you can give me more insight. This event in Kansas City that's going to be potentially canceled. But I'm going back to that person who lacks foresight, Stacey Abrams in Georgia. And she's running for Senate, by the way. Well, let's cancel the All-Star game because Major League Baseball and racism and all this. And all that money that she lost in one of the cities of America's All-Star game. You remember Major League Baseball All-Star game was supposed to be in Atlanta. They flipped out. And who did it hurt? It hurt a lot of black-owned businesses who are counting on millions and millions of dollars. But we want to do the woke thing. Am I making a wrong comparison to potentially what could happen here in Kansas City?
Maybe by scale, but I think it's still an issue. And so Kansas City is saying that they've been informed that they may not host the National Association for College Admission Counseling, which I'm thinking, how many people actually go to that? But the mayor was tweeting out he was sad for all the lost business that this would, if they choose not to come. But I'm thinking, you just got the World Cup. So, I'll take the World Cup over the college admission counselors all day long. But, there are going to be people who make these decisions and, but again, you're mad about our abortion policy? Were you going to come to the conference and try to get an abortion in Missouri while you were here? I mean, again, the abortion policy is dictated by your own state. Missouri is one of, 13, 16 states who have very similar laws, and there are other people in the middle. So, it'll be interesting to see if this group suddenly picks, a place where, you can get an abortion at the gas station or whatever, where abortion is and that's because, we went from Georgia to Denver on the MLB stuff. And so, you have to hold these people's feet to the fire and watch where they actually put their conference.
Colorado, by the way, one of the whitest states in the country. These people sometimes, man, a lot of times, they just don't make any sense. Because of wokeness and because this sounds like the right thing to do.
It's very much virtue signaling.
Yeah, if you say, well, we're going to do... Listen, it's like the virtue signaling. I always go back to years ago when Michael Jackson died. Or, excuse me, before he died. It was every time he had charges regarding, messing around with little kids and stuff. We had a top 40 station in the building, and they said, we need to go on air and announce following this latest allegations, we need to go on air and announce we're not going to play Michael Jackson music anymore. And I was like, well, why? Well, because that's virtue signaling. You know what? If you really care, if it really is near and dear to your heart, pull the Michael Jackson music. You don't make an announcement. Same thing here. Coming up, we were talking yesterday about how it seems like we do fewer and fewer things, and it got me thinking about the grocery store self-checkouts. It's a love-hate relationship for me.
No love for me
No
at
love.
all. Zero love.
Well, it's interesting. These things can get you into legal trouble. You can seriously get into trouble, and I found this from a TikTok influencer.
What? What? Did you just say what I think you said?
TikTok influencer.
Did Steph send you this?
No, she sent me a lot of other TikTok videos, but not this one. How they can get you into trouble.
Everyone else takes it too seriously. Thank God you get it. This is Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert, 93.9 The Eagle.
Here's why, as a criminal defense attorney, I advise most people to steer clear of self-checkout. There's currently 3 groups of people getting charged with shoplifting using self-checkout. The first group of people that are getting charged with shoplifting using the self-checkouts are the people that are going into the stores with the intent to steal.
That's a TikTok influencer. She is a defense attorney, I think, in the New York City area, but she's talking about one of the reasons you shouldn't be using self-checkouts. And this is interesting because I personally have a love-hate relationship with self-checkouts. At first, they scared me because technology in front of a bunch of people. It's the first time I remember ever using a self-checkout, and they're a pain in the rears. Make sure you put the item in the cart. And the idea was originally, hey, this will save us money. We can hire less cashiers. My first thought is if I'm checking out my own stuff, I want a discount. Right, because that's part of when I'm paying for my can of Progresso soup. Mm-hmm. Part of that money goes to pay for the cashier, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm being my own cashier, there should be a discount. That's never going to happen. But the idea was going to be they would save money and everything. Industry experts are widely saying, well, they're not saving as much money as we thought because guess what? Now they got to have IT people, security people. They're still having somebody to watch, even though there's fewer people that have to stand and watch, 7 self-checkouts in the IT because they constantly have problems. But some interesting reasons this attorney is saying be careful about using self-checkouts.
Well, because they have video and they've got the scale and all of that, so they can watch you, do your item. So even if you're, I think we've all done it where we had something in the bottom of the cart and we walked out with it. And so they now can see that on video, which gives them evidence. And then also, she's saying they're replaying the video back. They look at their inventory numbers. They notice some things are missing, and then they can, find you in their system that you were the last person to basically have one of those things, and then tag you for it.
So if it's something you did accidentally, but they have you on video, because here's the thing that I get sometimes when it's glitchy and slow, I'm scanning my cherub tomatoes and I don't hear it beep, and so I scan it, and I'll scan it like 3 times, and then guess what happens? Then it charges me.
And then you have to go get the person, and then they're busy, and this is why I don't do self-checkout.
And then all the people behind me are in the line standing there, and then they're tapping their foot, and they're getting angry with you and everything. And then there are times that I've scanned something, and I think it's scanned. If I have like 12 cans of Progresso soup, and I keep scanning them, and maybe I forgot one, I can get tagged. And they're going back on video, sometimes even months later, going, well, our inventory isn't matching, and they'll come get you. This is from a defense attorney.
And then it's like, put the item in the bag. I'm like, I already did. Dang it. I'm cussing the whole time that I'm doing the self-checkout because it's just like telling me what to do. And I'm like, it feels like fighting with a robot, and it's horrible.
I love self-checkout because I can bag things how I want, and I can make sure things don't get smushed.
Nope. Don't care. I don't like to do this because I think people who tell bad lawyer jokes, I don't like hating on my own industry. I don't think that is, but I am going to call a little bit of BS on this lady because, really they're watching back the film to get you for your bananas or whatever. And we're seeing these smash and grabs where people are taking $800 worth of, some sort of luxury items, and we're not prosecuting them at all. Find me a prosecutor around this country that's prosecuting somebody for, taking too many bananas and not prosecuting people for, stealing televisions or whatever else. I just don't think, I think the workload in that is so high that no one is getting prosecuted for self-checkout violations.
So what you're saying is it wouldn't be a very appealing case?
A few points
that
there.
was pretty good.
And to your point, and I'm going to back this attorney a little bit, she's on TikTok.
You're backing her because she's also hot.
She's not as hot as my friends Hannah, the producer, Stephanie Bell, and Brian Hauswirth. He's hot too, I guess. My name is Branden Rathert. Coming up, Brian Hauswirth going to get you updated. Some news as it relates to the Columbia Public School District. He's doing that at 7:03. Good morning. I am Branden Rathert for Atterbury Auction and Real Estate Company. What they're doing, really, Atterbury Auction and Real Estate Company, they're changing the way auctions are done. We're getting their story now. We know what they do. And there's things, here's what I love, because when we talk about the city of Columbia, for example, folks want a different school district than the city of Columbia school district. They're moving to places like Sturgeon and Sturgeon and Hallsville and Ashland. Right now, if you were to get onto AtterburySells.com, you can view this beautiful home in Sturgeon. It's kind of like the perfect balance of country living, but you're not too far away from the comforts of a town. This is a beautiful place. It's acreage. It's beautiful. It looks good. All kinds of good. Check it out. It's got a see-through gas fireplace, man. Check it out. You go onto the website for Atterbury Auction and Realty Company. It's AtterburySells.com. Atterbury Auction and Realty Company. AtterburySells.com.
Reaching out to witnesses. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. The House committee investigating the Capitol riot reported during a hearing 2 weeks ago text messages to witnesses attempting to influence testimony. And now former President Trump himself is accused of possible witness tampering.
A witness who has not yet appeared in select committee hearings was called by former President Trump, Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney says.
That person declined to answer or respond to President Trump's call and instead alerted their lawyer to the call.
Cheney says the select committee passed along that information to the Justice Department.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern on Capitol Hill. President Biden's in Israel today, about to land in Tel Aviv on his first trip to the Middle East since taking office.
An arrival ceremony scheduled for the president when he gets to Israel. He'll meet with leaders to talk about the U.S.-backed Iron Dome system used to protect Israeli skies. Then he's heading to Yad Vashem, the country's official memorial to Holocaust victims. In a few days, he heads to oil-producing Saudi Arabia as the U.S. faces its gas price crunch.
Fox's Jill Nato. The bodies of a man and his children missing for a week appear to have been found.
The bodies of 3 young children and an adult man have been found in a pond in Indianapolis, along with a car matching the description of Kyle Mormons, who has been missing for a week. The Indianapolis Star reports that the Marion County Coroner's Office says it's working to positively identify them, but signs point to them being Mormon and his 3 children, ages 5, 2, and 1.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Elon Musk is sued by Twitter for attempting to back out of a deal to buy the company for $44 billion. The suit accuses Musk of, after signing the contract, trashing the company, disrupting its operations, and destroying stockholder value. Musk on Friday announced that he was backing out of the deal, accusing the company of concealing the amount of fake accounts on the platform. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, if you're looking for a new rifle or shotgun, I love this company and highly recommend Henry Repeating Arms. Their website, henryusa.com. They've got more than 200 models that you can choose from, plus new releases that they have throughout the year. Now, Henry's come in a wide variety of calibers, 22s up to long-distance hunting rounds, and there's so many different finishes to choose from. Now, they only use the best grades of genuine American walnut for their stocks, and I also like that they're made in America by a family-owned business that gives you a lifetime warranty. They have affordable models starting as low as $250. They have collectible editions that I love that are splurge-worthy, even up to $3,000, many options in between. You start by ordering their free catalog by going to their website, henryusa.com. They'll mail it with 2 free decals and a list of dealers where you live. That's henryusa.com. Free catalog, free decals, henryusa.com.
Fox.
.939 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:03 and Robinson saves you time. 69 degrees right now in Columbia. Partly sunny skies. It's going to be a warm one today. Our high around 91, and we're expecting an overnight low around 68 degrees. In Jefferson City at 67 degrees. Our sunrise this morning, 5:54. It sets at 8:36 p.m. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. The aging Columbia Area Career Center will be seeing major improvements. A $15 million addition and renovation approved by CPS voters in the April bond issue. The district's drawings show the renovated facility will have large CACC letters on the front wall, along with a secure entryway and new sidewalks, crosswalks as well. The issue has been a top priority for CPS School Board member Blake Willoughby. You'll recall that he visited a Kansas City Area Career Center this spring. He discussed it in detail on Wake Up Columbia. It's also been a priority for Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood. CPS has also released some drawings of what the new $25 million elementary school planned for South Columbia will look like. That school will be built right next to John Warner Middle School, set to open in the 2024-2025 school year, essentially 2 years from now. Drawings show modern, secure buildings, new sidewalks, trees, green space. Project included in that $80 million bond issue approved by the CPS patrons in April. A former U.S. attorney who is running for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat this year as an independent describes himself as a common-sense conservative and a lifelong Republican. John Wood graduated from St. Louis's Country Day High School. He spoke on 93.9 The Eagles' Wake Up Columbia.
I remain a Republican, but I'm running for the U.S. Senate as an independent because I think the Missouri Republican primary has become a race to the bottom to see who can be the most divisive and the most extreme.
The 52-year-old Wood says Missouri voters deserve better than the choices that are being offered by the two parties in the race. You can hear our full interview with Wood on our website, 939theeagle.com. He also revealed during that interview that he actually wanted Senator Jack Danforth to run for that seat. Danforth declined. Wood said that's why he's running. Right after this newscast, we'll have a live interview with another candidate in the race, Congressman Billy Long. Stay tuned for that. Criminal charges have been filed against two Jefferson City women after a brutal weekend attack involving a hammer and missing teeth.
Cole County's prosecutor has charged 18-year-old Janiah Rucker and 34-year-old Tawana Gillis with assault, armed criminal action, and endangering the welfare of a child. Police say they were called out Saturday morning to Wall Street for a fight involving several women. Officers talked to a victim at the scene who was covered in blood and bleeding from the mouth because one of her teeth had been knocked out with a hammer. Victim said she and her son had both been attacked. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
John, thank you. A Cole County teen who scored a perfect 36 on her ACT wants to attend Mizzou next fall, and she wants to pursue a career in medicine. She is 14-year-old Ava Fleury. Her last name, Fleury. That's pronounced Fleury. She'll be starting her freshman year in high school here very shortly, but she'll graduate from Mizzou Academy Online High School in May.
I hope to attend the University of Missouri and major in some kind of science, probably biochemistry or biomedical engineering. I also want to minor in music because I've been playing the piano for 7 years.
Again, she's 14. I want to correct myself. She should be starting her freshman year in high school, but she'll graduate from this high school, this online Mizzou Academy High School, in May. She'll take a full load of college classes this fall through a dual enrollment program. She's been homeschooled by her mother, Ann. The family lives in Wardsville, which is in Cole County. In-state transportation crews hope to reopen the overpass over I-70 in mid-Missouri's Montgomery County by this evening. Contractors for MoDOT have been conducting emergency repairs on the overpass at mile marker 180 in High Hill for the past 2 weeks after a tractor-trailer struck it in late June. MoDOT has one lane of eastbound I-70 closed at least through 11 o'clock this morning. You can expect some delays in that area. I've posted a new photo from the scene that MoDOT sent me. It's on our website, 939theeagle.com. You get some sense of how bad the damage is and the new pillars they had to put up. Take a look at that picture, 939theeagle.com. No guarantee this thing's going to open tonight. That is their hope. If they don't get it done, they'll be back out there tomorrow. But that is the plan right now. They hope to reopen that overpass tonight. We'll keep you posted. News is brought to you by the Candy Factory in downtown Columbia. You can find them online, thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:08. In sports, the Cardinals and the Los Angeles Dodgers had a great game yesterday. The Cardinals come out on top, and keep in mind the Dodgers have the best record in the National League altogether. They're in first place in the National League West. Cardinals beat them, though, 7-6. Nolan Gorman hit a home run. Albert Pujols hit a home run as well last night. You heard the fireworks that went off there as soon as they hit those. Loud ovations from the crowd. Cardinals win 7-6. Cardinals 13 hits, Dodgers 10 hits. Cardinals struggled, though, in the field at times. 2 errors. They were costly. L.A. home runs, Freeman and Turner. Game 2 of the series is tonight at Busch Stadium. You'll catch it live right here on 93.9 The Eagle. First pitch is at 6:45 on your home for Cardinal baseball. 93.9 The Eagle. Detroit beat the Royals last night at the K. Final score there was 7-5. Sports brought to you by LaCrosse Lumber. You can apply now for a full or a part-time delivery position. They have great benefits. LaCrosse Lumber is on Grindstone in Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:09. All right, John, thanks. Weather brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, airserve.com. Partly sunny, 69. 7:09 traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies looking for local people. Again, if you're heading from the Columbia area, maybe Fulton over to St. Louis today, right on the edge of our listening area, a high hill I-70 mile marker 180 down to 1 lane. Traffic is backing up, as you could imagine. People slowing down on the other side as well. A lot of workers, lots of construction equipment there, so give yourself extra time. The road will be closed at least 1 lane until 11 o'clock this morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, Andrea. One of the wildest things that I've ever seen.
Shocking and even terrifying testimony today.
After that explosive testimony, the chairman brings down the gavel. Katie, I have witnessed so many hearings going all the way back, Iran-Contra. I have never seen anything like this.
It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That was reaction on places like CNN and MSNBC following January 6 hearings yesterday. Here was their reaction a couple of weeks ago following that hearing.
Vivid. It was compelling. It was chilling. The videos were.
And then a couple of weeks before that, the reaction.
Watergate is a walk in the park next to the January 6th.
It's every hearing is the next big. We cannot believe what we heard. Let's go to let's talk to somebody who knows what's going on. Congressman Billy Long. You obviously watching the January 6th hearings yesterday. Here's my takeaway. I trust your knowledge better. You're closer to that situation than I am. 2 takeaways. Number 1, I didn't get a bunch of breaking news updates from HuffPost in the Hill, nor Fox, nor CNN, nor MSNBC yesterday, so it says there was really nothing there. My other big takeaway is you have people getting up there that are in legal trouble already. And, oh, yeah, I didn't do it. Trump made me do it. That's my takeaway. Are we on the same page on this?
You bet we are, Branden. And you talk about beating a dead horse. I mean, they are just so ate up with trying to keep President Trump from running again and winning again that this whole thing's been a hoax from day one. And it's kind of sad to watch. But like they say, it is what it is. But Liz Cheney, I have no idea what her plan is throughout this whole thing. And after, of course, she can make a fortune on cable TV, being a talking head on there after she gets her clock cleaned in Wyoming the week after the Missouri primary. I believe theirs is 1 week later. And my wife's grandmother actually taught Harriet Hageman's dad in school when he was growing up. My wife's from Wyoming. Whenever she was growing up in Wyoming, or her dad was, my wife's grandmother taught her, and she's going to run away with that thing against Liz Cheney. So Liz had a great career laid out ahead of her. And I want to go back to the time that Cynthia Lummis, who's a friend of mine, we served in Congress together, and her husband died unexpectedly, and so she had to not run again for Congress and go home and take care of the business and try and get the ship righted. And then a couple of years later, when there was a retirement in the Senate, Cynthia Lummis went and filed with the FEC and said, I'm running for Senate. And Liz Cheney's comment, which everyone thought Cheney would run for Senate out there, and her comment was, Cynthia did that by mistake. She filed for Senate on accident. And I mean, what does that mean? Cynthia went over there and intended to file for Congress and accidentally filed for Senate, but you never know what's going on in Liz Cheney's mind.
All right, Congressman Billy Long joining us, obviously 2022 U.S. Senate candidate too. Joining us here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
Branden, thanks so much. Congressman, we appreciate your time. I want to go back to President Trump, but specifically there was a phone call between him and Congresswoman Hauswirth, I believe on Friday, based on the national reports. And the Congresswoman was with us yesterday, and she verified they did speak on the phone. Obviously, the media wasn't there, but based on reports, it sounded like there was some friction, and Mr. Trump issued a statement basically ruling out an endorsement for her, telling voters to forget about her and linking her with rhinos. Essentially, that is what he said. Your reaction to that, does that surprise you?
It shocked me. It shocked everyone that's been following this Missouri Senate race. No one that I know of saw it coming. I'm closer with President Trump than any of the candidates running for Missouri Senate. And I haven't talked to him probably in 2 months because I handle him my way, and it may not work, but I don't bug him. I've had senators over on the other side of the building here tell me to go down there and sit at Mar-a-Lago and tell Susie that you're not leaving until he endorses you. And I know that's not the way to handle Trump. And apparently what happened, and this is, second party hearsay, I guess you would say, but Chanel Rion, who's married to Cortland Sykes, who ran, I think, against Holly for the Senate when Holly ran.
He did.
But she's a reporter on One American News, and I listened to a 30-minute interview she did yesterday on a St. Louis station. And this whole thing, according to her, again, this is second-party speculation on my part, but according to her, when she did this interview last Tuesday, a week ago yesterday, with President Trump, it's going to air this Saturday, she's a big Greitens fan. Chanel Rion is. She admits that freely during the interview with Trump. I've seen that part of the interview, and she says, I have a dog in this fight, and Greitens is a good friend of mine and my husband's, and we have him over to the house, and da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, but she said that what happened on this call was that apparently Vicky had been watching some broadcast of the president and where he was saying good things about Greitens. And I guess she just got her panties in a bunch and, got all worked up and wanted to put a stop to that nonsense. He can't, Greitens is the worst thing in the world. You can't endorse him. And called the president in essence and told him that. And it went over like a lead balloon. And, it had to really upset the president or he wouldn't have issued that statement. Last, whatever day it was, when that came out, I did several radio interviews the next morning, and we were all speculating on why he did it. And I thought, well, maybe he's just going to, kick one of us off the island, Survivor Island, every 4 or 5 days until the primary and end up with one point.
We're laughing, Congressman. That's exactly Stephanie Bell's take on it last week.
And it's not Survivor Island, it's Missouri Apprentice, right?
Well, no, it's the Missouri Senate clown car. For 8 months, 10 months, whatever, I've had it, and I should have gone to a cartoon artist and had this done. But in my mind, this whole race, you've got a Volkswagen Beetle clown car, and the clown driving it is Eric Greitens. Sitting next to him in the front seat is Eric Schmidt. Behind Greitens in the back seat is myself. Vicky Hartzler's behind Schmidt in the back seat along with me. You've got McCloskey hanging onto the luggage rack, flapping in the wind, and you've got Schatz hanging onto the bumper hitch, dragging down the highway. And the door flew open the other day, and Vicky got thrown out of the clown car. So, Survivor Island or whatever it is, clown car, apparently. But, like I said, I was wrong with my first analysis of it because I really, really thought that I knew she had to do something. She had to do something to tick the president off because this really, I don't think she was ever in consideration from things that I know. I mean, Trump has said that she makes Jeb Bush look enthusiastic. She said some very bad things about the president after January 6th. She was never a strong Trump supporter. Of course, now she is. All these candidates have reinvented themselves. She loves Trump now. And Schmidt, who endorsed Cruz and was in on that cabal to try and steal delegates after Trump won the Missouri primary. For weeks, Schmidt worked to, get delegates to switch so that Cruz could be our nominee in Missouri. And, but now he loves Trump so much. But on this interview, the Trump that's going to come out Saturday, I did see the part of it where Trump says that Eric Schmidt and Eric Greitens, and I don't know if he said Vicky calls daily, but she, of course, had just called, but so they're all calling him daily to get the endorsement. And what was hilarious about the thing, I thought, was that Vicky puts out this statement. She calls the President of the United States the 45th and the 47th President of the United States and calls him and wants his endorsement, which we all want his. I went to his office in Trump Tower on August 3rd of last year when I announced on Tucker Carlson that I was running and tried to get his endorsement. I've tried to get it ever since. So we all want his endorsement because whoever gets that endorsement, it's over. I've said that for a year now. You can fold your tent up, everybody else, and go home because whoever he picks is going to win that primary. Now,
what are the chances? What are the chances John Wood gets that endorsement? He was on our show earlier this week, and I just wanted to get your reaction. Obviously, I think the chances are zero, but what are your reactions to him getting in the race?
I think that's a fatal flaw. I talked to somebody who used to run the Missouri Republican Party whenever Danforth was a senator, and he looked at me in the eye last week and he said, Billy, Danforth never liked the Republican Party, and he still does not. They run John Wood. It's going to be Ross Perot 2022. A Democrat will win that seat. It looks like Coons because Valentine Bush has had a tough time getting her clown car on the road, and so if Wood follows through, stays in, Eric Schmidt cannot win this race. Eric Greitens cannot win the race. Vicky, me, McCloskey, Schatz, no Republican is going to win the race if they actually run Wood. And the only thing I'm hoping, everybody's so bent out of shape trying to keep Greitens out of this. They're probably going to get him elected, frankly, but they're so worried that he's going to be the nominee. And if he is, I think Wood will follow through. I'm hoping that Danforth, at his adult age, still has enough common sense to know that if it's not Greitens, then they back off. They say, well, we were just kidding. We're not going to run an independent. But they run an independent. We don't have that many points to spare. We can't give away 6, 7, 8, 10 points peeled off by an independent candidate and hope to beat the Democrat, because the Democrats will stay strong. They'll all go for their nominee.
Congressman Billy Long running for Senate, the primary, I think 20 days away. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you go, sir?
No, I just like to go out my website there, have people check us out, BillyLong.com. Someone asked me yesterday if there was still time for Trump to endorse me, and the answer is definitely yes. He could come in and have a rally for me 10 days out, and I would win the thing. But, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I've never said that's going to happen. And at this point, it looks like a bolt of lightning would have to hit me before Trump would endorse me. But
we appreciate.
I might be the next clown out of the car. I mean, he might put out a statement today saying, like I say, he might kick one of us off every 4 or 5 days off of the island.
Listen, Billy, you know this. I appreciate your candor, your sense of humor, and your candidness. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Campaign website, then we got to go.
BillyLong.com. I wish you'd have stopped at candy because I like candy.
I know.
I like candor.
Listen, that's what Joe Biden and I have in common. Sometimes we get our confused words mixed up, but I say what you know to mean. We'll see you, Congressman Billy Long.
Buddy.
All right. 93.9 The Eagle. Coming up, what are you going to be doing?
It is National French Fry Day, so we're going to hash out, no pun intended, what fast food restaurant has the best French fries?
Download the 93.9 The Eagle app and listen to Wake Up Columbia everywhere. It's easy to do. Geez, even Brandon figured it out. 93.9 The Eagle.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27. Good job.
time for Brandon gets a little gold star.
Yay.
7:20. I'm going to give myself a little gold star later, too, because I got some flack from some of my good... that's right. I'm giving out my own gold stars this morning. Well, I had some conservative friends give me flack after the show yesterday for backing Jill Biden on something. But thank goodness somebody with some actual name, because Branden Rathert has no name recognition, but somebody with national name recognition takes the same stance I do. So I'm going to give myself a gold star. What's hot with Hannah? I know, it's pretty bad. I know. What's hot with Hannah today?
So today is National French Fry Day.
Okay.
And one of the most divisive questions you can ask a person is, what fast food restaurant has the best French fries? We've had about 10 people weigh in on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page, and they all have different answers.
There's no consensus.
There is no consensus so far.
What about you personally?
So I think McDonald's is kind of classic, or Chick-fil-A, like the waffle fries.
Steph, what about your kids? Is there a consensus, or do they care?
McDonald's. Oh, in Ashland, that's where we go. So They love fast food. I think McDonald's is their favorite. I love Five Guys, honestly. I think they have great fries.
And they give you a buttload of fries.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Yeah, I don't think they call it that on the menu. I think it's small, medium, large. I don't think it says buttload, but it's on there.
What about you?
I
don't eat French fries. I only eat lettuce and drink spring mountain water.
This, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, look, this girlish figure... Which is not
Your camera's not over there anymore, remember?
I know. I'm trying to get the side angle to really enhance that. Yeah, just about any fries will do is what I'm trying to say. Coming up just a few minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle. I love this. So Josh Hawley, he went on Sean Hannity yesterday after his name caught on fire in the national news outlets yesterday. Hear what he had to say 5 minutes from now.
Weather brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. A welcoming ceremony in Israel, the first stop on President Biden's Middle East trip.
He'll meet with leaders to talk about the U.S.-backed Iron Dome system used to protect Israeli skies. Then he's heading to Yad Vashem, the country's official memorial to Holocaust victims. In a few days, he heads to oil-producing Saudi Arabia as the U.S. faces its gas price crunch. But the president had promised to make the Saudi kingdom a pariah after the CIA said Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the death of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi.
Fox's Jill Nato. And inflation has blown past the old 4-decade high. The June Consumer Price Index was expected to have increased 8.8% and said it was 9.1% year over year. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:31 and Robinson saves you time. Right now we have partly sunny skies. It is 70 in Columbia, 69 degrees in Jefferson City. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here are some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. Cole County prosecutors charging 2 Jefferson City women with assault following a brutal Saturday attack involving a hammer. The suspects are 18 and 34 years old. They've been charged in Cole County with assault and armed criminal action. 93.9 The Eagle's John Marsh, my colleague, reporting police found the female victim covered in blood, bleeding from the mouth. The victim also missing at least one tooth. She tells police that she and her son were attacked with his hammer on Wall Street in Jefferson City. New elementary school that will be built next to South Columbia's John Warner Middle School, scheduled to open for the 2024-2025 school year. It's a $25 million project approved by CPS voters in April. Parents of a Wardsville teen who scored and earned a perfect 36 score on her ACT credit the community for supporting their daughter's efforts. 14-year-old Ava Fleury will graduate from Mizzou Academy Online High School in May. Her father is Sam Fleury.
Whether it be Blair Oaks, they've been extremely accommodating to her during her career in academics. Mizzou Academy has been they've helped her out a lot. They have great teachers that are available online. If she has any questions.
Sam also credits his wife, Ann, who homeschooled Ava until Mizzou Academy classes began. Ava tells 93.9 The Eagle she credits the hours she put into her practice test. She says that eased her nerves when taking the real ACT. State transportation crews hope to reopen the I-70 overpass in mid-Missouri's Montgomery County by this evening, and Columbia police have not made any arrests in that early morning shooting Tuesday on Doris Drive. A woman shot, her home hit with a number of bullets, glass doors shattered as well. News brought to you by Willett Dental Associates at 733. In sports, Albert Pujols and Nolan Gorman hitting home runs for St. Louis. They lead the Cardinals to a 7-6 win over the first-place Dodgers last night at Busch Stadium. Not just first place. The Dodgers have the best record in the National League altogether. They're, of course, out of the NL West. This game at Busch Stadium last night, Cardinals 13 hits, the Dodgers 10 hits. Cardinals had 2 errors. They were costly, but the Cardinals hold on to win 7-6. L.A. had a couple of home runs as well. Freeman and Turner going downtown. Game 2 in the series tonight at Busch Stadium. First pitch, 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. The Cardinals 2 games back right now behind Milwaukee in the National League Central Division. Milwaukee is 4-6 in their past 10 games as well, so they've also run into some tough spots. Detroit beat Kansas City last night at the K. 7-5 was the final score there. Cabrera had a big game there for Detroit. 2 or 3 RBIs, and he's been consistent all season. One of the best hitters in the league. Sports brought to you in this 7 o'clock hour by the folks at Visit Missouri. You can find more at visitmo.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our roads quiet here in mid-Missouri, right on the edge of our listening area. I-70, 180-mile marker, 1 lane closed, the eastbound lanes. MoDOT trying to finish the repairs on the damaged overpass, almost fixed. Hope to have it done, they hope, by tonight, if possible. If not, they'll be back out there tomorrow. And a reminder, if you're heading to Jefferson City, 1 lane in the eastbound direction on the Missouri River, soon to be Roy Blunt Bridge in Jeff City, will be closed from 9 o'clock this morning until 3 this afternoon, and that'll tie up traffic as well in Jefferson City. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
Now it's time to check in on the leader of the free world, who this week proved that he will, Ron Burgundy style, read anything on the auto cue. Anything.
And cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Yeah, just like the legendary fictional news anchor for one of the funniest movies ever made, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
So here's what's key about that. So we know Joe can't read a teleprompter, and we know, and listen, I just admitted to Congressman Billy Long a few minutes ago. I was trying to thank him for his candor and honesty. And the word came out, Congressman, thank you for your
candy.
So I admitted to the congressman, hey, I do that stuff too. The difference between me and Joe is I am not the leader of the free world. Now, that is a worldwide news outlet, Air TV. The point of that is that's how the world sees us. Since those tragic events of January the 20th, 2021, we've lost stock And Steph and I have been sitting here while Brian Hauswirth, our news director, handling news for Missouri, while Hannah, the producer, has been over here talking about fries. Who has the best fries? By the way, generating some chat off the text, 2 at 874-9390. And let me step aside and say this. I love this. With all these things going on in the world, inflation and gas prices, and Holly trying to tell a college professor the scientific fact of who can and cannot have children, I love that you take the time out of your day to text us and tell us your favorite fries and to tell us, hey, today's the anniversary of a huge date in Missouri history, a fun date. We're going to get into that before 8 o'clock. It's kind of fun. I'm looking forward to this story, Steph, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I love all these things going on, and you take time out of your day to text us about French fries. I want to make sure you're included on this. I already think I know the answer. What's hot with Anna today? Favorite fries. People are saying, various restaurants, McDonald's. We're getting texts about it. But before we get into what Joe is doing right now, I was going to ask you your favorite fries. I'm guessing Cracker Barrel.
They have one. There's a lot of them, but I would say that one, McDonald's, is pretty good. Really good. McDonald's, by the way, is donating, I believe it's a certain amount of proceeds to the Ronald McDonald House today at the area restaurants. But, they're very good. I just have to watch those with diabetes. You can't eat too many of them, but they're wonderful. I could eat a lot if I didn't have to worry about it.
Just Jeff's, and I love Jeff's, the way they,
I tried to go there on 4th of July weekend, and they were off. They gave their employees the weekend off, which I was really glad. They were on Fred Perry's show, and I really was craving a good, and so I'm going to have to make another
Fred
trip.
Perry, Inside Columbia Magazine, hosts CEO Roundtable Saturday mornings before Gary on Guns, but just Jeff's Burger. So we highlighted this audio, what the world thinks of us. We are becoming, since January 20th, 2021, we are becoming the laughing stock of the world. And right now, Steph and I, while Hauswirth is doing the news and Hannah's talking fries, Stephanie, if you were watching on our YouTube channel at 93.9 The Eagle, like we're huddled together like scared little kids in front of the fireplace waiting for mom and dad to come home, and we've got our fingers crossed, and there's a good reason.
Well, we're watching Biden land in Israel. He made it down the stairs. There's a big red carpet. They sang the national anthem, and he stood there. It's awkward right now. He's got a whole bunch of folks with him. He's the only one wearing sunglasses. Like the only one out of 12 people.
He saw Top Gun Maverick.
He's trying to give that badass image, I think. Really, he really, he's trying to do that. And here's what happens every time. Again, this is not about poking fun at the president. This guy right now is on a worldwide stage. I think the last time he was on a worldwide stage, what did the leader of the free world do? He criticized the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The guy's in other countries criticizing one of our levels of government. Stupid.
I mean, the other reason we're huddled together looking exasperated is apparently inflation hit a 40-year high again today. So we might need to do that in the morning bell.
It did. One other very, very quick point, that something that was said in that interview with Congressman Long that really grabbed my attention, and I don't know if listeners caught it, but the congressman implied, if you listen to what he said, his version of that call is obviously different than the way Congresswoman Hartzler described it. But Congressman Long said the reason former President Trump got so mad with her is that she had criticized former Governor Greitens on that call. And that has not been reported anywhere else. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. That's what he said. So I'm sure that'll generate some interest in that. Those inflation numbers are going to get a lot of attention on the top of the hour news from Fox, and they're also they don't look good for rural communities, specifically the farm community, fertilizer, things like that. So we'll keep a close eye on that too.
Billiards has good fries too.
Oh yeah, they
like
really
the fries
do.
So
does Woody's.
Here's when I'm and Steph and I, the biggest part, we're huddled up like little kids here in front of the fireplace waiting for mom and dad to come home as we watch the president. The first thing was, so I envisioned the president walking off the airplane, the presidential march, and then like tumbling down the stairs. He gets up and then walks again, and then it's like, okay, he's up. And then He falls down the steps again on a worldwide stage, man.
Listen, I fell down an entire flight of stairs at 4:30 in the morning once.
That's right.
With living with roommates, okay? And they said that the noise that it made was so loud it woke them all up. So, Biden's falling off bikes one day. I don't think it's too big of a stretch.
I fell down my basement stairs, and I fell so hard it bruised the stair lines on my backside. It was awful.
I fell down the steps one time, and I fell so hard I bruised the actual steps. I was fine. It was the steps. 874-9390. Timothy, what's on your mind, bud?
Couple of things. I'm the world doesn't think anything of me. It's just that it's Biden's a butt, and that doesn't affect me in the sense that he opens his mouth and all this stuff comes out. Well, but not very much good stuff anyway. And I like the Freddy's fries.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those are the real thin ones. Like you could eat them with a fork.
Like Steak and Shake.
Yeah. All right, good call.
Well, I'll mention that in the same word because Freddy's better than Steak and Shake any day.
Heat is on. Timothy, we appreciate you being a part of the show here on 93.9 The Eagle.
I'm feeling rather triggered today, Hannah.
Uh-oh.
You know that I've been trying to eat better.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and now we're talking about French fries, and I am really hungry.
And we're all right now kind of in the process of trying to do things there. Is that cool for us to talk about?
Yeah.
All right. So we're all right now in the process of Stephanie's eating olives. Hannah is taking part in a rigorous workout program. And
I don't know if I call it rigorous.
Trying to help you out, buddy.
I sometimes pull a Branden Rathert and go sit on the exercise bike at the gym and watch TV.
Some days you got to do it. And Branden likes to tell us every time he goes to the gym.
Yeah, I know. And I'll tell you this, and I hate to. I didn't go yesterday. I'm trying to be really careful. So every time I'm getting ready to go see the grandkids in Idaho, and I'm gone for, 14 days or something. And before I leave, I ask Hannah. We're in a very high-level meeting yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And out of the middle of nowhere, I hadn't touched anybody, nothing. I'm sitting there, and I'm taking notes, and I have my hand on this counter. And what did I do?
You, immediately turned around and washed your hands. So the meeting is going on, and you're in the break room washing your hands.
For no reason. I didn't touch anything. I feel weird. So I try to be super careful before, because I will get on an airplane and go see my grandkids. If I were to get COVID today, I'd be fine as long as I'm done by the time I leave town next Thursday. So I get uber careful before I go. So that's I have a great excuse for not going to the gym for the next few days.
I actually owe you an apology from that meeting. You were kind of sitting off by yourself, probably intentionally, and I came in late and kind of sat not super close to you, but also not very far away from you. And it didn't hit me until the end of the meeting, oh, he probably was trying to distance himself for a reason. I kind of felt like a jerk.
Thank you. So, yeah, that was a thing, too. So, people are coming up and talking to me. Our good friend John Marsh from Jefferson City. He's in a radio group in Jefferson City. He comes up, and I even told him, I'm like, hey, man, I'm not trying to be rude. And I'm standing, I'm talking to him, and I'm, steady at the waist, but I'm bent, back like this so that we're not face-to-face. Because I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to get sick. I'll get sick any other time of the year. We'll gladly take it. But so far, the superior Rathert genes have prevented me and my father from getting...
Insert eye roll emoji right now.
But no, I felt bad. It was the end of the meeting when I was like, he probably doesn't appreciate that I came over here to sit next to him.
So I'm I'm like the kid in trouble in the corner because I'm just trying to stay away from everybody. And Hannah, and she doesn't know, and she comes and sits right by me. And so that's, did you notice? And when I kind of stood up and...
You moved over a chair?
But I was doing this. I didn't get up and move. I kind of stood up my back. And then...
I didn't notice you actively moving away, but at one point I looked over and saw you had moved chairs in the middle of the meeting, and that's when I was like, oh, crap. I'm not social distancing right now.
My dear sweet Hannah, thank you. Seriously, thanks. All right, do we want to talk about...
I was running late, and I just grabbed the first chair I found, okay?
You want to talk about Josh Hawley coming up in the next few minutes, or this really interesting date in Missouri history?
Maybe we can do both.
Let's do both. We'll do that 5 minutes from now. Who knew that was an option? We'll do both. We'll do that 5 minutes from now here on
This show includes language and or cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance and may offend some listeners. But not you. You get it. 93.9 The Eagle.
It was in 1975, a film crew set out to make a movie about another famous hairy monster, Momo, Missouri's own monster. The film crew shot and edited the film, but for some unknown reason, never released it.
Whoa, we missed an important date in Missouri history yesterday. Our bad. But first, before we get into this story, Steph's been monitoring the stock market, other financial news, and big numbers we were expecting today. She's got her hands on those now.
Yeah, so inflation, we've been watching it. You have said it's been the highest it's ever been since Hannah was born, since I was born. They were expecting it to be 8.8 in June. It's worse. 9.1. Inflation, I'm going to repeat that, 9.1%. Can you, I mean, I knew it was bad seeing it in a Fox News headline this morning and on across the screen now.
Yeah. And I wonder, and listen, you're getting the gig with Wake Up Columbia, right? We're getting in droves. We're getting folks that have been politically homeless, whatever you want to call it. We've been getting the number of regretful Biden voters that reach out to us at 874-9390 and thank us. Say, hey, man, we appreciate what you guys are doing. We get it, and we're not chastising you. We're not going after you. That's not really what we do here on the show. We don't bang and yell and complain about stuff unless it's parks in the city of Columbia and burning trash on your front yard in Jefferson City and stuff like that. That's not what we do. And the amount of response that we've been getting is just incredible. We're here to welcome you. We do welcome you, new listeners, younger listeners, regretful Biden voters. And I kind of feel bad for some of these people that aren't getting it yet, because I'm wondering, because there comes a point in time, I think, you got to be honest with yourself, or you believe so strongly in something. I believe in Joe Biden; he's going to do fine, and to heck with the Trumpers, and to heck with conservatives. And then when it gets this bad, when we're seeing things, Stephanie Bell has never seen inflation like this in her lifetime. Hannah, her 22-year-old, recently engaged college graduate, she has never seen this happen. And I'm being serious, I start to feel bad for some of these people that can't come to grips with the honest truth about what Joe has done to this country. Because there's people, every time they fill up with gasoline or they hear more news. Can you repeat those numbers? I want to make sure we got these right, Steph.
So it's the fastest pace of inflation since December 1981, which if you're me, that's still 20 years ago, but it's actually not. It's 40.
Yeah.
But I think of the 80s as 20 years ago. It's not. 40 years, and it hit 9.1%. Experts had thought it was going to be 8.8, and it's worse.
Stephanie, to me, the book smartest person in this room right now, she has never experienced this in her lifetime. And the real world consequences, you're seeing it in the pay, you're seeing it when we have other countries' news outlets making fun of us. That is the real thing. And I feel bad for some of these people, because there comes a point you got to get honest with yourself. And some people just can't do that, going, you know what, I really messed up in voting for Joe, or, you know what, I'm sticking with Joe because I said it, and I don't have the capability to come forward and say, man, I was wrong. I really messed that up in supporting Joe. I feel bad. I really do, because to live in a lie every single day for your life and not to be able to come to grips with the reality of what's happening, and I'm speaking from experience, not from a political reality on that, but I just can't do it. And now we're looking at inflation graphs over the past just like 10 years. And if you were to look at a line, it would kind of look like, I don't know, it would look like, your grass is, when you have a yard, the grass in your yard, and it gets cut, and sometimes it's shorter than others, and then sometimes the grass is taller than others, and sometimes you go on vacation to Europe for a month, and when you come back, the grass is taller than your house. That's what this graph is like if you were to look at it. That helps make it real. Man, It's hard to move forward. Well, we were going to talk about Momo the Monster in Louisiana, Missouri. There used to be a ride at Six Flags about Momo the Monster.
We ain't got no more time.
All right, let's move forward because we are going to do a couple of things. Josh Hawley, man, I love what he did yesterday. I love the way that the news outlets handled this whole, it wasn't even a throwdown. Josh Hawley, in such polite and factual terms, let this woman kind of step all over her own feet and fall on her own face. And it was beautiful because he did it so politely. It's one of the things we'll cover coming up about 10 minutes from now. We'll do that at 8:10.
Prices are going up and up and up. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. The monthly inflation report just released by the Labor Department again is showing higher prices.
Inflation was even hotter than forecast in June. The Consumer Price Index rose 1.3% from May to June. For the year ending in June, the CPI was up 9.1%, putting inflation back at 1981% levels. Excluding food and energy, the increase was still very strong, 5.9%, though that's the only bright spot. Core inflation decreased from May. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
And with this report now out, Dow futures are down 351 points ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street. President Biden is in Israel, landing in Tel Aviv a few minutes ago for an arrival ceremony.
It's an honor to once again stand with friends and visit the independent Jewish state of Israel.
The trip comes nearly 2 years after an agreement signed by former President Trump normalizing some regional relations.
Trade, cooperation, and tourism now define the state of Israel's relations with many Arab neighbors, a result of the Abraham Accords.
President Biden is coming to a very different Middle East.
Fleur Hassan Nahum is deputy mayor of Jerusalem. She says the Israeli-Arab conflict, for the most part, is over, and they're happy to show the American president.
There are, of course, conflicts in the region. There's the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There's everybody's conflict against Iran. But ultimately, the Arab world is no longer at war with Israel.
President Biden will also visit Palestinian territories before flying to Saudi Arabia. Eben Brown, Fox News.
A push in the Pacific. Vice President Harris, in a virtual address to the Pacific Islands Forum, announces plans for the U.S. to add American embassies in Tonga and Kiribati. America's listening to Fox News.
Our friends at Henry Repeating Arms are now offering a line of Tribute Edition rifles to honor those who serve our great nation, including active military, veterans, law enforcement, and sheriffs and firefighters and EMS, and so many more. These tribute rifles are embellished with high-end engraving and artwork. Look, I've never seen anything like it in a firearm, and I'm a collector. They are truly a collector's edition, and you can proudly display on your wall or give away as a gift. They're all made in America. It's a family-owned business of true patriots. Their motto is made in America or not made at all. And they're all backed by their lifetime warranty to protect you and future generations. I cannot say enough to rave about Henry Repeating Arms. Just check out their website, Henry USA. You start there. You'll get a free catalog. They'll also give you free decals and a list of dealers where you live. That's henryusa.com. Free catalog, decals, list of dealers where you live. You won't regret it. I love henryusa.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:03 and Robinson saves you time. Partly sunny skies. We're continuing to warm up right now. We're going to see sunny conditions. Our high around 91. 73 is our current temperature. Good morning, everyone. I'm Brian Hauswirth, and here are some of the stories we're working on for you on this busy Wednesday morning. We begin with that shooting that happened overnight on Doris Drive in Columbia yesterday morning. Now, that area is north of I-70 and east of Cosmo Park. CPD investigators are still asking for your help in trying to solve that incident. CPD investigators say a woman was shot, but she declined to go to the hospital for her gunshot wound. ABC 17's Ben Fine reports the victim's glass door is shattered. It was struck by multiple bullets. Now, authorities are not telling us if this was a random shooting or not. There is no suspect information. Anyone who has information on the shooting is urged to call Columbia Crime Stoppers at number 573-875-TIPS. Meantime, Columbia Public Schools has released drawings of what the new $25 million elementary school planned for South Columbia will look like. That school will be built next to John Warner Middle School. It's set to open for the next school year, actually 2 years from now, 2024 and 2025. The drawings show modern, secure buildings, new sidewalks, trees, green space. Project included in an $80 million bond issue approved by CPS patrons in April. The district also has new drawings of the facility that's called the Columbia Area Career Center. That will also see major improvements. A $15 million addition and renovation approved by the voters in the same bond issue. The district's drawings show that renovated facility will have the large CACC letters on the front wall, a secure entryway, and new sidewalks and crosswalks. The issue has been a top priority for the CPS superintendent, Dr. Brian Yearwood, and CPS school board member Blake Willoughby, who visited a Kansas City Area Career Center this spring and discussed it in detail on Wake Up Columbia. It's also an important issue to Missouri's governor. He's talked himself about the importance of the Columbia Area Career Center. So has Chief Jeff Jones. Both the governor and Chief Jones believe the CACC could play a role in helping CPD fill some of their vacant positions here in town. In other news at this hour, a former U.S. attorney who's running for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat this year as an independent describes himself as a common-sense conservative and a lifelong Republican. John Wood graduated from St. Louis's Country Day High School. He appeared on 93.9 The Eagle's Wake Up Columbia.
I remain a Republican, but I'm running for the U.S. Senate as an independent because I think the Missouri Republican primary has become a race to the bottom to see who can be the most divisive and the most extreme.
He's 52 years old. You can hear our full interview with Mr. Wood on our website. It's 939theeagle.com. He also revealed in that same interview that he actually wanted Senator Danforth himself to run for that seat. Danforth said no, so that is why Wood said that he is running for that seat, and he's confident he'll get to the 10,000 signature mark and be on the November ballot. And a Cole County teen who scored a perfect 36 on her ACT plans to attend Mizzou next fall and pursue a career in medicine. 14-year-old Ava Fleury should be starting her freshman year in high school, but instead she'll graduate from Mizzou Academy Online High School in May.
I hope to attend the University of Missouri and major in some kind of science, probably biochemistry or biomedical engineering. I also want to minor in music because I've been playing the piano for 7 years.
She's been homeschooled by her mother, Ann Fleury. The family lives in Wardsville, which is in the Jefferson City area in Cole County. Congratulations to Ava, just 14 years old. Our news is brought to you by Missouri Tourism. Visit Missouri and discover the possibilities at visitmo.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time is 8:07. In sports, Albert Pujols and Nolan Gorman hitting home runs last night for St. Louis. The Cardinals beating the Dodgers 7-6. Dodgers in first place in the National League West, and they are loaded up and down the lineup. I mean, how can you imagine a lineup with Mookie Betts is your leadoff guy with 20 home runs? That's how loaded they are. But give the Cardinals a lot of credit. 13 hits. They actually out-hit the Dodgers 13-10. Cardinals do commit 2 errors, but they win the game 7-6. Cardinals just 2 games back right now of Milwaukee in their own division. National League Central, game 2 in the series tonight at Busch Stadium. First pitch 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Detroit beat Kansas City last night at the K by a score of 7-5. The Royals have so far taken 2 of 3 in that series because they won the doubleheader at the beginning 2 games of the series on Monday. So Detroit wins the game last night, 7-5. Sports is brought to you by MoHeartCenter.com. Our news time, 8:08. All right, John, thank you, and great work on television this morning with Megan. It's sunny right now in Columbia, 73. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. Roads right now pretty quiet in mid-Missouri. Jefferson City will have 1 lane eastbound closed today, starting here in about 51 minutes, 9 o'clock this morning on the Missouri River Bridge. And, of course, mile marker 180 on I-70 High Hill, which is Montgomery County, 53 miles to our east. 1 lane is closed in the eastbound lanes heading towards St. Louis through 11. MoDOT plans, that's their plan, to reopen the bridge and that overpass, if you will, this evening. That's not confirmed yet, though. That's their plan. And if that changes or if it doesn't, we'll keep you posted on the newscast today. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Inflation was even hotter than forecast in June, a sign you were paying a lot more for things last month. The Consumer Price Index rose 1.3% from May to June.
9.1% year over year, much hotter than expected, everybody. November 1981 is the last time that we have seen an inflationary number this high.
These are things, now the 2 old white guys here in the studio, well, we've seen numbers like this before. We were little kids, probably didn't have the wherewithal. I knew asking my mom and dad, hey, Mom and Dad, how come we're having ramen noodles again for dinner? That's my understanding of what it was like in 1981. Remember what it was like?
I do, and I also remember right before that, the Gerald Ford inflation. The difference, Branden, is that the old people, like my grandparents who were very poor, they lived on their interests because the interest rates were 10% plus. So people complain about that, but the old people were able to live on their interests. Now those interest rates are not even 1% in some cases. So this is much tougher, I would argue, than then. Also keep in mind, a lot of people had the job unemployment rate in those days. The 82 recession was different, but the 1 in 79, the unemployment rate was still low. That said, it hit people, and those gas lines were terrible.
And I'll give you points where I did not. I'll give you points for using the phrase "old people" unapologetically. Like I gave Jill Biden points yesterday. I backed Jill Biden. She was talking about the tacos thing, and people got upset. I thought it was.
And they were elderly, and they lived on their interests. There's no doubt, and both of them were in their 80s.
And more perspective on how, and I don't want to be doom and gloom how bad things are, but the reality of what happened since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. Stephanie has never experienced this in her life.
I haven't.
So it's never.
It gives me like an overwhelming sense of dread about the future. And I think we're going to see that reflected in the markets, and we're going to see that reflected in people's behaviors. And again, I talk about, we want a world that's better for our kids than we grew up in. And this gives me doubts about the future, and that it sucks. And I feel like I can't, other than show up to the polls, I don't feel like I have control over the situation, and I don't feel like anyone has control over the situation.
I want to call U.S. Senate candidate Mark McCloskey here real quick, see if he'll come on and talk about this. But first, when you were talking, I thought a very compelling story earlier this week, like your kids, the youngest of which is 5 years old, is starting to notice some things that are a little different in the Bell household. That's the thing that breaks my heart. Is when then you have little kids, and we don't explain because they don't get the politics, they don't get the idiotic things that Joe does and the poor decisions that people that are that progressive, they don't understand how that affects stuff. It's a 5-year-old kid. But when they start to notice things are different in the house, like how come we're eating ramen noodles every single night, Mom? That's the kind of stuff.
And to be fair, we're not eating ramen noodles, but I will say
we're the Bells and we're a little bougie.
No, but my kids, they love crescent rolls, and we were in the grocery store, and my kid said, "Can we get some crescent rolls?" And I looked at the price; it was like $5.15, and I said, "No, you sure can't. Sorry, we're not paying that for crescent rolls."
And to Stephanie, you make a great point. And to Branden's point, the historical significance is big because 41 years, 9.1%. And basically any discretionary income that anyone would have, which is your money left over after you pay your bills, there's not much left for most people, and it's getting harder and harder. The gas price, the energy price, the food prices. But I'm thinking entertainment budgets are going to be cut out. It could impact a number of things. So we'll see. These numbers are a little higher than I was expecting.
And
everyone was expecting. Than the experts were expecting.
Yeah, Janet Yellen was even caught off guard.
Hopefully, while Joe is in Israel, hopefully not putting his foot in the country's mouth right now. I wonder how long it'll be before they shield him from those numbers. Josh off the text, 874-9390 in 40 years. History repeats itself, just like the saying goes. All right, we do have U.S. Senate candidate Mark McCloskey joining us, man. Thanks for taking our phone call on such short notice. Mark, your reaction is something. How old, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you 41 years ago? Last time stuff was this bad.
I was 25 years old. It was remarkable. And, the government keeps tinkering with the indices used to develop the consumer price index. If you use the same indices as there was during the Carter administration, this inflation rate is more like 30%. And so they've monkeyed with the statistics to make it look not quite as frightening as it is, but it's frightening. I mean, when we got married, my wife bought a used car. Of course, we were young people and didn't have great credit, but she had 25% interest rate on the first car she bought after we got married. And that's where we're headed in this world. You can't keep spending money you don't have forever and expect somebody else to pay the bill. Eventually, that money has to get paid, and it's the people that end up paying it.
I want to ask you this, and I think I already know what the answer is, but I want to hear the real deal, the real story from somebody. Mark McCloskey, pink guy and the gun, protecting his home from those ignorant BLM protesters a couple of years ago, the famous dude in the pink polo shirt running for U.S. Senate. When you are out and people are saying, hey, Mark, here are the things that concern me, and I hate to ask just a yes or no question, but is it the economy, stupid?
It is different than that, actually.
Really?
And maybe it's just the people that we see. We were at the Carthage ice cream social last night with 500 people, standing room only. The night before that, we were up in the Lake Lotawana Sportsman's Club with 250 people, standing room only. The thing that frightens the people the most is not the crisis du jour, not the current inflation or the price of gas or the disaster at the border, but what this all represents, and that is the impending loss of our country itself, the loss of our basic God-given constitutional freedoms. Every place we go, people are very, very concerned that this country is in a crisis right now, which it may not survive unless we seize control right now and elect people that are willing to go to D.C. and absolutely stand up and tell the truth. Right now, we live in a fantasy world in D.C. You probably saw Josh Hawley interrogating somebody yesterday who, when they asked him whether or not he believed that men could get pregnant, and he says no. They say, oh, you're a transphobe then.
Yeah.
So the whole world is intentionally made upside down to create crisis du jour after crisis du jour to distract people from the real program. And the real program is, and I say it every night, Joe Biden said it on March the 21st of this year, and that's this new world order. And that new world order is a single world socialist government. Every place that you've seen the left take over, they've done these same tactics. They make people impoverished. They make people afraid. They make people dependent on the government, and then they make people powerless by taking their guns away. And that's the game plan that's being played out right before us, and people recognize it. I think the left has pushed far enough now that they've woken the sleeping giant, and that giant is the American people.
Well, Hillary Clinton even agrees with Josh Hawley. Hillary Clinton saying a couple weeks ago, listen, Democrats, you got to quit hanging. You got to quit hanging your hat on the, well, if they want to be identified as a girl, you got to do that. She's telling her party, get off that stuff. That's stupid.
Now, recently we saw you in the pink polo, but you weren't wielding a gun. You were wielding a fire extinguisher. Yeah. What was going on there?
Well, we were coming back from Kansas City, and we just saw this car on fire on the side of the highway. And there's one poor guy with a fire extinguisher, and his extinguisher was already out, and the fire was raging. So I pulled over. I always carry a fire extinguisher, and we got out there, and I started spraying it down. But, by the time we got that fire out, there must have been 10 citizens out there with fire extinguishers working on that car. And then, maybe 10 minutes after we got the fire out, the fire department and the state police show up. And all of this is just emblematic, right? When there's a crisis out there, when there is an emergency, what made this country great is people willing to take things into their own hands and display some initiative. If we had to wait, if we didn't have fire extinguishers and citizens jumping to the rescue, by the time the fire department finally showed up, that car would have been, barbecue. And same with the right to keep and bear arms. When you're in a crisis, if you're waiting for a policeman to show up, whatever bad stuff was going to happen would be way over by the time they get there.
Mr. McCloskey, we appreciate your time here on the program. Roll Call has an article out today, and they wrote another one yesterday, and it's about, as they say, the red-hot inflation report. And there's a lot of information about inflation there. But if you drill down in the article, it mentions that President Biden's job approval right now is at 33%. I believe the poll was from yesterday, but 33% as of yesterday. With that, still, I've seen in some of the national outlets on hypothetical ballots, they have Republicans beating Democrats, or I think it's like within 3 points. Do you think it's that close, or do you think that it is further apart? Where do you see that in terms of Congress right now?
Oh, I think there's going to be a sweeping overhaul of Congress. I think we're going to take the majority back in spades. And, I don't know who these 33% are, but are they polling people in mental institutions?
See, I don't know where they're polling, but as you know, as you know on Twitter, if you look at Twitter, it looks like there is significant support for President Biden, and at least that's what appears on my feed many times. You just see them on Twitter. But there is apparently 33%. I want to ask a quick follow-up about your race specifically, Mr. McCloskey, in the U.S. Senate race. We're just basically a couple of weeks away. Can you win this primary right now? Well,
we feel very, very good about it. We hit the road every day. we're at every state fair and parade and event, and we get tremendous, almost unanimous support of all the people we see. And, you know, when we did a recent poll, when people know I'm the pink shirt guy with a rifle on the front porch, and, you know, my wife and I were the first people in the country to stand up against Antifa and BLM and just say, no more, not in our street, you're not going to. People have me in the lead. And that then only, you know, in a tie for first with Eric Greitens and Vicky Hartzler. Well, now the President Trump has come out and unendorsed or said he would not endorse Vicky Hartzler. And now that Greitens' support is starting to fade, you know, I think we're posed really well. The people in this country, people in this state particularly, are fed up with politics as usual, politicians as usual, and they're terrified, and rightly so, that this country is right on the very verge of destruction. This noble experiment in freedom we call the United States is one vote in the Senate away from being destroyed for all time. And that's got people motivated. And you know, there's one person in this race who isn't controlled by billionaires, who doesn't have any billionaire, you know, super PAC support, somebody who's already demonstrated their willingness to stand up at the risk of their life and their reputation and their income to support the rights of the people and support the Constitution. And I think we're going to do really well. I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. And wouldn't it be refreshing to show the world that a real outsider can stand up against the swamp and the mainstream media and the rhinos and actually win and take the power back for the people? I think that's a refreshing thing that we ought to just show the world, that you can beat the big money, you can beat the swamp.
Senate candidate Mark McCloskey, we appreciate you coming on such short notice, letting us call you and bug you in the middle of your campaign trail and coming on here onto Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
All right, feel free to give out your website real quick before we go.
It's McCloskey4Senate.com, McCloskeyFOR Senate.com. It's McCloskey4Senate.com.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you. I'm guessing I know what's coming up in the morning bell this morning. Numbers to give you some perspective. Since 1980, we haven't seen anything like this since 1981. Stephanie wasn't around. 1981, that was the year there was an assassination attempt on the Pope. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the very first installment in the Indiana Jones movie. That was #1 at the box office. Donkey Kong, back in the games when you could go into an arcade and drop a quarter into a video game.
It's the picture with the red and blue ladders. I loved that game.
Biggest watched television event in history. 700 people watching Prince Charles and Lady Di get married. MTV launched. Ric Flair was a hot wrestler. And this was one of the #1 songs in America.
There's only you in my life. The only thing that
The power of local talk. Wake Up Columbia with Branden. 93.9 The Eagle.
You all remember what the economy was like when I was elected.
That sounds humorous now, Joe Biden.
You all remember what the economy was like when I was elected.
We sure do, and we know what it's like today. As a matter of fact, coming up Morning Bell, which we're going to do at 8:35, 5 minutes from now, and how it's affecting rural Missourians, because it's even worse. We'll do that 5 minutes from now here on the show.
Weather Check brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. It's 70 degrees.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Inflation hits a new 40-year high. The June Consumer Price Index year over year was 9.1%.
November 1981 is the last time that we have seen an inflationary number this high for CPI. Gasoline, shelter, and food were the largest contributors to this report. Energy index 7.5% jump over the month. That was half of all items. The gas index alone rose 11.2%.
Fox's Cheryl Casoni. President Biden talking ties with Israel shortly after arriving in Tel Aviv.
It's an honor to once again stand with friends and visit the independent Jewish state of Israel.
This is his first stop on his 4-day Mideast trip. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:31 and Robinson saves you time. We're expecting a warm day today. Sunny and a high of 91 degrees. Right now, 75 is our current temperature. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we're working on for you in this 8 o'clock hour. Cole County prosecutors have charged 2 Jefferson City women with assault following a brutal Saturday attack involving a hammer. The 18 and 34-year-old suspects have been charged in Cole County Circuit Court with assault and armed criminal action. 93.9 The Eagle's John Marsh reporting the female victim was covered in blood, bleeding from the mouth, one tooth missing after being beaten with this hammer. The victim tells police detectives she and her son were attacked by the 2 suspects. The investigation is continuing. A new elementary school that will be built next to South Columbia's John Warner is scheduled to open for the 2024-2025 school year. $25 million project, a key component in the April bond issue approved by CPS voters. Again, in April, it was an $80 million bond issue. Parents of a Wardsville teen who's earned a perfect 36 score on her ACT are crediting the community for supporting their daughter's efforts. Ava Fleury will graduate from Mizzou Academy Online High School in May. Her father, Sam Fleury.
Whether it be Blair Oak, they've been extremely accommodating to her during her career in academics. Mizzou Academy has been they've helped her out a lot. They have great teachers that are available online if she has any questions.
Sam also credits his wife, Ann, who homeschooled Ava until the Mizzou Academy classes began. And the Ready Board of Directors meeting this morning in downtown Columbia. One of the issues they'll be talking about is COU, the airport. Our news time, 8:33. In sports, Albert Pujols and Nolan Gorman hitting home runs for St. Louis, leading the Cardinals to a 7-6 win over the first-place Dodgers last night at Busch Stadium. Cardinals with 13 hits. They also commit 2 errors in the game. Los Angeles home runs from Freddie Freeman and their shortstop Trey Turner. Game 2 in the series is tonight at Busch Stadium. First pitch 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Cardinals hopefully can win 2 of 3, if not more. And boy, you get an opportunity to do that against Los Angeles. That would really help. Cardinals just 2 games back right now of Milwaukee in the National League Central, playing a powerhouse tonight. Mookie Betts, again, you can't emphasize that enough. Leadoff guy, 20 home runs. That tells you how good that lineup is that we're facing. And the Cardinals beat them last night. Detroit beat KC last night at the K. Final score there was 7-5 at Kauffman Stadium. Sports is brought to you by Missouri Heart Center, comprehensive cardiovascular care in the heart of Missouri. MoHeartCenter.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time is 8:34. Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Midmohires.com to post a job opening today. MoDOT is on the Missouri River Bridge as we speak right now in Jefferson City. Here in about 26 minutes, they will shut down one eastbound lane on the Roy Blunt Bridge, soon to be Roy Blunt Bridge, until 3 o'clock today. They'll also close the West Main Street ramp on 254 while the work takes place. They're going to do that today from 9 until 3. The plan is to get that done by tomorrow, and they're urging you to slow down in the work zone. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station 93.9 The Eagle. The show Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
Inflation was even hotter than forecast in June, a sign you were paying a lot more for things last month. The Consumer Price Index rose 1.3% from May to June.
9.1% year over year, much hotter than expected, everybody. November 1981 is the last time that we have seen an inflationary number this high.
You all remember what the economy was like when I was elected.
Yeah, we do. We remember what it was like prior to those events of January the 20th of 2021. Here's something I want you to consider. Missouri's agriculture industry, according to Atlas, it depends on basically, at the very least, $80 billion per year, maybe $80 to $100 billion per year.
Depending on the report. The last full report I saw, Branden, was in 2017. I was with Chris Chin, who listens to us, and she delivered at the Capitol. It was $88 billion. That was as of 2017, $88 billion with a B. That may have gone up a little bit, but ballpark, you're right in that range. That's huge. The largest industry in Missouri by far.
That's huge with a Y.
Yeah, huge, right? Is it about time for those billboards of Trump doing "Miss Me Now"? According to, and there's a bunch of different indexes, but basically, I think bottom line, you think about 88, maybe $100 billion, the ag industry here where we live, the place we like to call home, which is Missouri, and especially we think about the rural area, Montauk County and Randolph County and all of these.
Audrain, Cooper, Boone has a lot of farmers too.
Fayette, all of these places, and these people that live amongst us, this current wave of inflation is making it's more difficult for rural families. They're more vulnerable right now than the rest of us because the gas prices, diesel, they're hauling the stuff, the fertilizer. It is just stunningly, remarkably sad what has happened. And here's the other thing, and one of our Josh pointed this out via text, and he's right. And I hate to play that, we told you so game, because that's not what we're doing. We know we have a wave of regretful Biden voters that are now listening to Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. We know we now have a wave of, which I love, younger people. And when I say younger, I don't know the context there, Hauswirth, because you and I are the couple old white dudes here at 51. So I think anybody younger than 45, to me, that's younger. But we're getting people in their 20s. I mean, my goodness, Hannah, the producer, is 22 years old. She's been listening to Wake Up Columbia since she was at the very least 15 years old. Stephanie Bell is 28 years old. She's what I would consider.
Awesome.
That's not what you say when Stephanie's not here.
No, Hannah's correct. Hannah's being accurate. So we know that we have all these new folks that they're getting affected, and they're like, okay, how are these things working? And that's what we've been trying to do here. It's not conservative talking points. It's facts. It's trying to draw the line, point A to point B. Here's what happens. Here's when those people get elected, this is what happens. We're not here. We're not making fun of you. We're not going, see, we told you so. But as Josh points out, we have hours and hours of audio that we could pull from the past 2 years saying, listen, if this happens, this is going to happen. It's almost like science.
Well, and it's making people really cranky. I've been really cranky this week because I've been on a little bit of a diet. But, after seeing what Trump's up to, I've been wondering why he's so cranky. Maybe it's inflation. He issued that really cranky statement about Vicky Hartzler earlier, and then he went off on Elon about cars that don't drive and rockets going nowhere. And Elon and him are kind of in a spat now, but he just seems really agitated this week, and either he's cutting down on the French fries or he's feeling this inflation, even him.
Well, so sometimes people do those monthly diets. They'll fast for once a month for a week. They fast. Maybe this is the week he's fasting. It's making him cranky.
It's making me cranky.
People fast for a whole week?
I think so. Or they take a week where they fast for hours at a time, but they only do it for the week. They'll fast for 16 hours.
Intermittent fasting.
Yeah, intermittent fasting. Yeah.
Okay, I was like...
A lot of people do that full time, not just for a week.
Yeah.
I think the big difference that I can recall from this particular number, and I do remember 1981, obviously Ronald Reagan was president, but he had a Democratic Congress. Things were much more bipartisan in those days. But it seems like President Biden, it's a different, he's talking about Roe versus Wade, or he's talking about a different issue, as opposed to talking about inflation. I haven't heard him speak that much about it. He does from time to time. The difference between this and 1975 is President Ford talked about it on television every day. The older people will remember they did. Actually, President Ford urged people to wear, Branden, you might remember this, win buttons, W-I-N, win buttons, whip inflation now. And people did wear them. Now, Ford lost the election, not by much, but he was out there talking about it all the time. He also had to overcome Watergate, too.
That was a little thing.
That was
there was that.
But he still, if you look at the polls and in that race in '76, he darn near came back to win. Carter won that narrowly.
There's two real takeaways for me here, and you look at political polling, right? And sometimes people are behind, but what they tell you is look at the trends. Is that person picking up steam, or are they losing steam? And I think that's what worries me here is the trend. We just keep going up and up and up. And there's no end in sight, it feels like. And then also the fact that the experts were already expecting doom and gloom, and it's worse than even they were expecting. It's really bad news today.
And we don't want to completely bring you down. And you're right, with Gerald Ford, at least he was coming out and saying, hey, man, we're working, we're trying to do something. And from the current dude.
We got a long way to go because of inflation, because of I call it the Putin tax increase.
Everybody else's fault. No ownership. No saying, hey, you know what? I've really screwed the pooch on this one, man. I'm trying. He's not. He's blaming. And it's funny because he caught flack the other day because he's been saying it's Putin's gas increase. We know, as a matter of fact, gas prices are not because of Putin. It's because of Biden's sloppy pullout in Afghanistan. That's why Russia invaded Ukraine. Not my words. Those are NATO's words, okay? It is directly his fault. So he's blaming. It's Putin's gas hike. It's Putin's tax increase. It's this. It's that. And then this week, people are, because now he's blaming Republicans, and we're like, wait a minute, you said it was Putin. Now you're blaming Republicans. There's a lot of power in coming out and saying, man, I screwed up. I messed up. I'm handling this wrong. I think the other thing it says to me, and I get the politics, the politicians, but as a man, as a human being, he does not have the capability. He does not have the wherewithal to come out and tell people. The leader of the free world can't come out and say, you know what? I got to quit blaming other people. We are on my watch now. And I was the one on those events of January the 20th. I was the one that said unity several times, and I'm not doing it. He does, as a man, as a human being, does not have that capability.
His wife apologized, though.
His wife apologized. Can I give myself? Well, I don't want to give myself. So I backed Jill Biden yesterday, and then when I left the station, I suppose I heard you backing Jill Biden, and yeah, Jill Biden, she was trying to make, hey, you are as unique. She was talking to people of San Antonio. You are as unique as your breakfast tacos or burritos or something, and it was here's what she said.
And as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
And folks got upset, I think, because her last name is Biden. But folks also got upset. They thought, well, it's racist and it's this. And I caught some flack yesterday from some of my friends when I left the radio station yesterday. And they're like, well, why'd you? I'm like, because there's nothing offensive about that. But you know what? She apologized, which... Would you apologize if it caused backlash? If you're doing something that causes backlash, do you apologize even if you don't genuinely feel sorry for what you said? If you go, what I said was not wrong, do you apologize anyway, just to smooth?
If I'm the First Lady of the United States, or if I'm Stephanie Bell.
Greg Gutfeld on Fox last night.
She shouldn't apologize. She didn't do anything wrong. When anybody ever says anything out of their best intentions, just leave them alone. Yeah. But I do get it. I do understand the desire to do it. But the media loves this stuff because if you don't pander, you're a bigot. And if you do pander, you're a benign, patronizing bigot.
But he's right. She didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't being racist by comparing the people of San Antonio to tacos, in my opinion. I just wanted to... Oh, and the other thing I want to apologize before we talk to Rich here. I think it was on Friday's show... Stephanie had asked me about the city council. We were talking about winners and losers of the week, and it was an easy pick to pick. And Stephanie said, Branden, well, what about the Columbia City Council? Because they, again, showed they really do not support our police department with this move on the Columbia Police Review Board. And I said something to the effect, I said, oh, screw them. I apologize. I should have said, screw most of them. 874, not all, just some of them. So
wow, what a great apology.
So I am apologizing because that's a deserved apology. That is apology. Yeah, I should probably apologize. I was impugning all of the members of the Columbia City Council, and I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to impugn the integrity of
the majority of them.
The majority of them. So I am sorry. Rich, welcome into the show. What can we do for you?
Well, I was just going to remind you the gas has gone down lately, so we now have a Putin gas decrease.
You are correct. Gas prices, at least what I'm seeing, like in Montauk County and Randolph County and Cali, down like 30 cents over about a month or so. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, and the other thing that confused me, since China's buying our gas, would it make it a G? Yes, decrease.
And Rich, you bring up a great point, and thank you for being a part of Wake Up Columbia, bud. We appreciate you, man, and I dig your sense of humor. But you're right, because what's going to happen when and if some of these things do start, because the reason it's all happening, it's Putin's fault, it's Republicans' fault. That's why my friends in Missouri are paying so much for progressive soup and for the gasoline and for rent and all of this stuff and baby formula, and our poor farmers, man, God bless our farmers here in Missouri. So Joe's blaming everybody else, just like Rich adeptly said. What's going to happen when things start to go a little well?
He's going to totally take the credit for it. We all have those people in our lives. Oh, they're the worst.
Wait, hold up. Is there an implication? Are you implying something?
Not about you, Branden.
Okay.
Never.
All right. Coming up.
Never.
I want to do some. And more people here in town are learning the new way of dealing with pain apparently is regenerative medicine. Regenerative medicine. So what is this? Well, here's what you do. You call QC Kinetics, the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Old ways. So the old ways, pain meds, steroids, surgery. Eventually, some of the like cortisone shots, those quit working after a while. The new way is regenerative medicine. This can restore and repair damaged joint tissue. And this isn't like for like ultra rich people. This is not like that at all. I was hanging out at QC Kinetics recently. We're talking to like dudes that ride Harleys, talking about some women that work, they have stand-up jobs in a factory or something. They're regular folks, just like all of us here this morning. That's how affordable, how reachable this stuff is at QC Kinetics. And the bigger thing, I'll go to this, because if you have had serious chronic pain, it's not just the pain, it's everything else, the way it affects life. Call QC Kinetics, 573-545-5588. QC Kinetics, 573-545-5588, 573-545-5588.
Local opinion? We've got your back. Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
They're all over social media applauding her and saying, oh, that's exactly right. It's not exactly right. It's exactly crazy, which is why voters are running screaming away from the Democrat Party. This is craziness.
All right, that's Josh Hawley on Sean Hannity last night. Sean Hannity's here today, noon to 4 on 93.9 The Eagle. This has to do with that exchange that Josh Hawley had with this professor, this woman that he was chatting with. It was a hearing regarding women's rights or whatever. And Josh Hawley, very polite, very astutely says, okay, I just want to understand first, and I believe in that. Seek to understand first For example, we had John F. Wood on the show yesterday, and we knew what the reaction was going to be, this independent candidate for U.S. Senate. We knew what it was going to be, and we were right. But what did we do first? We wanted...
We listened.
We listened. Seek to understand first. And that's exactly what Josh Hawley did, and this idiotic college professor called him, saying he was hateful and transphobic because he was questioning who it is that can give birth. So Josh talking to Sean Hannity last night. Hopefully Sean Hannity, I'm guessing he's going to be covering some more of that today on his show, which starts at 2.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
All right, Brian Hauswirth, Hannah, the producer, Stephanie Bell. I'm Branden Rathert. Before we get out of here, we do want to open up the fridge, look at some leftovers. We found a bunch of fries, bunch of French fries. That was what's hot with Hannah today, 7:25. We do it every morning. She's got a post on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page. No clear consensus. You can't. Is there any place that has a bad French fry, really?
I don't like the crinkle cut ones, and I don't like soggy ones, but for the most part.
See, I don't like the real skinny, crisp ones. I like just about anything.
If they're loaded with cheese, then yes.
You could put cheese and bacon bits and sour cream on a pile of dog, and it would taste good. You want to do some campaign ads before we make room for the Gary Nolan Show?
Yeah, we got some new ones.
Okay, so we have been talking about some of the new ads, especially in this Senate race. Eric, he's got the guns, he's shooting, he gets out of the big old Ford pickup truck, and then you've got another one. You've got Eric Schmidt, and he's got the blowtorch, and then you've got Mark Alford in the 4th Congressional District race. He's got a megaphone. Eric Schmidt, running for Senate, our current Attorney General, he has a new ad. He has a new weapon of choice, if you will, our new prop in his commercials.
I'm Eric Schmidt. As a 6th-generation Missourian, it's always been about God, family, country, and the Cardinals for me. As your senator, I'll swing a big stick in Washington.
So he's holding a baseball bat, and he's saying, my thing is God, this, and Cardinals baseball. And he's up to bat, and he's hitting, I don't know if it's baseballs or softballs, and he says, didn't Mark McCloskey actually use that phrase one time on our show? Because we asked him about, he wears those polo shirts, but he wears the one that...
with the big logo.
Yeah, and we asked him about it one time, and he says, it's to show Washington, D.C., I'm coming to swing a big stick.
Basically, yes.
So then it's Eric Schmidt. He says, I'm going to go swing a big stick, and he's hitting baseballs out of
Crushing Biden's socialist agenda, stopping election fraud, and protecting the integrity of your vote. Securing our border, banning critical race theory, and
So that's his new campaign ad. Another prop for a dude.
Yeah, I found there was a straw poll, I guess, in Jasper County down in Joplin, so really strong red area. It was among the Republican women, and that poll had Hartzler up with 65, Schmidt 46, Greitens 26. So interesting there. Auditors race Fitzpatrick 152, Gregory 7. So just a handful of folks, but I found those numbers to be insightful.
And we have been reaching out. We were kind of having a little bit of a conversation with Eric Greitens' people to get him on the show. That's kind of gone, and that was just recently something they restarted. Have had conversations with Eric Schmidt's office in the Attorney General and with his campaign people. So we have been reaching out to those people on more than one occasion. Maybe they'll come on prior. We already have 20 days now. Coming up, Gary Nolan's show is next. We'll see ya.
Hey, Gary. I'm doing all right. How are you? I'll be right back.